In the peace and serenity of the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, there lies a startling beast. One would never think that such a pastoral setting could be near a monster. It was created in 1947, a 1/2 mile dirt racetrack. The surroundings have changed little, and although paved in 1955, the track has remained a tough one. It's located near Martinsville and is NASCAR's oldest continually operated track. Since 1947, drivers and cars have come here to challenge it. Many words have been used to describe Martinsville.
It's a pretty racetrack.
But there's a lot of beast in the beauty. Richard was one of those involved in a typical Martinsville multi-car tangle in 1985. His car suffered extensive damage. But hurt more was Bill Elliott. His quest for the title that year was hurt greatly by the crash.
I say it's one of the worst bull rings we run.
It might look little, it might have long straightaways and real tight corners, but this racetrack requires more driver concentration than any track I've ever run.
Since it was paved in 1955, driving styles have changed little. It's still a rough and tumble racetrack, hard on equipment and on drivers. Ricky Rudd found out how things can get out of control and how solid the concrete walls at Martinsville can be.
It's fun, it's tough. When you run out of brakes, you're in trouble, and there's a chance of that happening.
All racing fans have heard of a bull ring. This is a bull ring.
3 matadors fought in the bull ring last year to try to slay the beast. In the final lap, Terry Labonte and Dale Earnhardt locked horns, with Darrell Waltrip slipping under the cape to win his only race of 1987. To win Martinsville is quite an accomplishment. It takes skill, patience, and endurance. The call has come out for the drivers to return to Martinsville for the 33rd annual Goody's 500. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Today from Martinsville, Virginia, the Goody's 500 being brought to you by Budweiser, proud sponsor of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you. By Quaker State Motor Oil, the big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. By Jeep, there's a feeling you can get only in a Jeep. And by Purolator, the first name in filters for Pure Oil now and Pure Oil later, it's Purolator. It's a very overcast day here in Martinsville, Virginia. The temperature a very cool 62 degrees, and there are showers in the area. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to Martinsville. We return here for the first time since 1981. 500 laps of competition this afternoon on a 1/2 mile racetrack. And Ned, it's one of the most strangely configured racetracks I've ever seen.
It's like driving on 2 drag strips. Each straightaway is long and narrow, and then you go through very tight turns. And, Bob, it is absolutely one of the toughest tracks on the circuit to pass on. You literally have to set someone up and sometimes have to bump them a little bit to get them out of the way. And if there's ever been any doubt about this being a contact sport, we'll see when the green flag falls here later.
There are 6 more races to go in the 1988 Winston Cup Series. And the points battle remains the closest in history. It could go down to the very last race, Ned.
Bill Elliott has a 127-point lead coming into this race today. Regardless of where he finishes or where Dale Earnhardt finishes, he will still go away with the point lead. But this racetrack can be a point buster. As we saw in 1985, when he came in here with an 86-point lead over Darrell Waltrip, he was taken out by this crash and went away with a 23-point lead. But Bill seems to be living a charmed life. In 1988, last week at Dover, Delaware, while leading the race, he came across the start-finish line to get the caution, and the right rear tire blew on the car. But he was able to get it back to the pits, and with some good, fast pit work, was able to get back out and maintain the lead, and, of course, went on to victory. Now, Elliott's short track program is much stronger this year. He's sitting on the front row. More on that story. Here's Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, you know, Ned, the last 2 of the 3 events that have been run in Winston Cup competition, the 3 principals in the Winston Cup point battle, I'm talking about Elliott, Earnhardt, and Wallace, have finished 1, 2, 3. But today on the front row at Martinsville, 2 of those principals sit here. A brand new track record and a brand new race car. You know what happened to the other short track car they had at Bristol, but a brand new Kodiak Pontiac for Rusty Wallace. Why is he on the pole? Well, Rusty says this man is the guy that put him there. How can Bill Elliott put Rusty Wallace on the pole? Well, Elliott had this track rented a week or so ago to practice. Rusty Wallace had a brand new car and hadn't practiced it. He said, Bill, can I come up there and run some laps? Bill said, sure, no problem. Come on up. Rusty came up, practiced it, and he put Bill off the pole on the outside of the front row. How critical is today's race? Well, since 1980, the driver who has had the best average finish on the short track has become the Winston Cup champion. Who is it among these three? It's not Rusty. It's not Bill. It's the guy starting way back in 10th spot, Dale Earnhardt. Watch out. The championship battle continues. Let's go up pit road to Larry Newber. Larry?
My location gives you the essence of Martinsville. The pageantry, always a big tradition here. The landscaping. Very few ovals in America have landscaping encircling the outer walls. Also, as you look across the infield, the linear distance between the front stretch and the back stretch is quite small. Now, what that tells you is that their turns are very short here. It's a real added emphasis on exit speed rather than entrance speed, almost like a road course. These cement patches here, they're actually encircling the entire turns. Now, it lends to the durability of the racetrack here, but also, when it gets slippery, it gets very icy. And how about these curbs? Now, the curbs keep the cars off the grass, another one of the traditions at Martinsville, but it also prevents the drivers from kicking dirt up onto the racing surface. These curbs also, however, provide a very unique set of problems. Gary?
Well, you're right, Larry. Those curbs have knocked more front ends out of alignment than any pothole on any city street. Also, the concrete you talked about is segmented by little strips of tar. This tar upsets the handling of the car. It's like going over a lot of little ripples, little bumps, just when you need the traction the most in the turns. Then the transition to the asphalt upsets the car again. This has caused more and more headaches for the crew chiefs and the drivers trying to get their cars to handle for 500 laps here. Bob?
And the driver who can best negotiate those corners 1,000 times in the next 3.5 hours will emerge as the winner of the Goody's 500. The order has been given to start engines. In a moment, we'll be back for the lineup and the start of the Goody's 500. From Martinsville Speedway in Virginia, ESPN Speed World and the Goody's 500, here is the starting lineup for today's race. With a new track record on pole position, driving car number 27, the Kodiak Pontiac, Rusty Wallace from St. Louis. Outside of row number 1, it's Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Motorcraft Ford. The second row, Jeff Bodine from Chemung, New York, the number 5 Levi Garrett Chevrolet, and Neil Bonnet in the Valvoline Pontiac, car 75. The third row, it's Terry Labonte from Corpus Christi, Texas, the Budweiser Chevrolet number 11, and Alan Kowicki, the Xerox Ford car number 7. Michael Waltrip starts in 7th position in the Country Time Lemonade Pontiac number 30, and then Brad Teague in the number 67 Panel Sweatshirts Ford. The fifth row, it's Greg Sachs in number 88, the Red Baron Frozen Pizza Oldsmobile, and Dale Earnhardt in the GM Goodwrench Chevrolet car number 3. Row 6, Lake Speed, car 83, the Wins Oldsmobile, then Mark Martin in the Strollite Ford car number 6. The 7th row has Brett Bodine in the Crisco Ford car number 15 and the Quaker State Buick number 26, driven by Ricky Rudd. The 8th row, it's Rick Wilson in the Kodak Oldsmobile Pontiac, Kodak Film Oldsmobile car 4, and Harry Gant on Hoosier tires in the Skoal Bandit Chevrolet car 33. Benny Parsons in car number 90 and Sterling Marlin in 44 will start 17th and 18th. And we take a look at the rest of the starting lineup. There are 3 drivers that start this race on Hoosier tires besides Harry Gant. Ken Schrader will also go with the Hoosiers, and Bobby Dillon Jr.
And Bob, out of the 32 starters in this field today, as we watch the rest of the starting lineup here, 20 of these drivers have won at least one Winston Cup race in the past. So you might say that it's a race of winners.
And Harry Gant was the winner on this track yesterday when we ran a Busch Grand National race that we'll have for you this coming Friday afternoon here on ESPN. Harry Gant won the Busch Grand National race on this racetrack just yesterday. There is the number 6 car and the 83 and the number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt. He's starting back in 10th position. Didn't have a particularly good qualifying effort, but he's set to go for 500 laps of competition. The pace car pulls off. Here comes the field out of corner number 4, and we're underway in the Goody's 500 with Rusty Wallace jumping to an early lead.
Boy, he got a good start on when the flag dropped. He jumped out ahead of Bill Elliott. He wanted to be sure to get into that turn 1 first.
Darrell Waltrip running the high groove through the first and second corners as he tries to pick up positions. Here comes the field once again off of corner number 4. Wallace will lead lap number 1. All 32 drivers have survived lap number 1. In fact, they've survived the first and second turns of lap number 2. The field begins to get strung out just a little bit.
And Bob, when Rusty Wallace led that first lap, of course, he's going to lead number 2 as well, but that's the first time this year that he has led on a short track. I couldn't believe that when I saw the statistics, because really the short track has been one of his strong suits in the past.
Boy, he was determined to take the lead, Ned. He was ready when they got ready to throw the green flag. He really snookered Bill Elliott, got a big jump. He was determined to lead that first lap.
But you can see how close Bill Elliott is now that we have run 3 laps of this race. Back in 3rd and 4th positions, the number 5 car driven by Jeff Bodine and the number 11 of Terry Labonte following Terry. And oh, Jeff scraped the wall, looked like, coming out of 2.
He got on the gas a little hard. The back end came around. He hit the wall coming off the back, the second turn onto the back stretch.
And Dale Earnhardt is struggling to pass cars and make his way through the field.
And look at this 6 car. Mark Martin has gotten caught on the outside, and boy, that is a tough situation. See, there's so much traffic down there, he can't get back on the low groove, and especially in the early part of the race, you've got to run on the inside of the racetrack. Here's Lake Speed trying to make a move on Dale Earnhardt on the outside.
And this is for 10th position as Lake Speed is on the high side and Dale Earnhardt on the low side. 10th, 11th, then comes Ricky Rudd in the green 26. Mark Martin on the outside of the dark blue number 6. Look at the contact that's going on right there as Darrell Waltrip had to get onto the brakes, and he was nailed at the rear of the car by the 24.
1 and 2, Davey Allison has spun out between turns 1 and 2.
And we're going to have the first caution of the afternoon, and it comes on lap number 6. Davey Allison losing control and spinning down in corner number 1 and 2. Phil Parsons, we also noticed, got at least into the grass down in that area, but he's continuing to run. He has some front end damage on that car. Here comes Davey around. He doesn't appear to have had much major damage, at least, to the car. There's none visible, at least, but he catches up to the rest of the field on lap number 7.
But there is some smoke coming from the Phil Parsons car, whether it's a tire rubbing or what. That's the Skoll car just in front of Davey Allison.
In 1971, there was only 1 caution flag during this race. The record number of cautions in 1987, 17. The green has just come out. Rusty Wallace continues to lead Bill Elliott, Jeff Bodine, Terry Labonte, Alan Kulwicki, Michael Waltrip, Leo Bonnet, and Greg Sachs in car number 88.
Boy, that is bumper-to-bumper racing right there. Look at that line. There's no room. Nobody's giving anybody a break. They're all trying to make up some more positions early.
We see Dale Earnhardt there. We have word that maybe he's running on only 7 cylinders. We see Ricky Rudd trying to move around. Let's go to Jerry Punch in the pits for more on that story.
Well, Ned, they're definitely concerned here in the Goodrich pit. Earnhardt radioed in on the very first lap. He started passing cars, and he's still passing cars moving inside of Ricky Rudd out of turn 2. But the car is definitely missing. He's qualified in 10th spot and is making his way to the front. They were going to bring him in during that first caution flag, but Nelson, let me see if it'll clear up a little bit. It has not as yet cleared up, and they are concerned here in the Earnhardt pit.
Yeah, they're definitely beating down the straightaway, Jerry. He's going through the corners okay, but on the straightaway, they can get 1 or 2 car lengths on him, so he's losing positions on the racetrack.
He's back to 12th. He was 10th just a few laps ago, so Dale Earnhardt definitely not happy with the way that GM Goodrich Chevrolet is running. You can see there that Lake Speed in car number 83 has passed, and there's Sterling Marlin in car number 44 that moves alongside Dale Earnhardt and tries to gain another position. Mark Martin is also right there, and Alan Kulwicki wants 4th position as he battles with Terry Labonte. Kulwicki in the number 7 and Labonte in the number 11, Junior Johnson prepared Chevrolet.
Well, those first 5 cars have pulled away by about 10 car lengths from the 6th place car, which is Michael Waltrip. But everybody trying to take that low groove, and that's always the case here at Martinsville. You have to run low if you're going to get around this racetrack fast.
But you know, there's no apron at this track. All the other tracks have a little bit of an apron down low on a, you know, maybe not banked as much, but at least an apron. Here, that curve is just, you got to run right against the curve almost to really get around here fast. You can see Rusty, Bill Elliott, Jeff Bodine, Terry Labonte, and Alan Kulwicki all rubbing their tires almost on that curve as they go through the turn.
And one thing they have to be very careful of here is not to use too much brakes early in the race. And even though, Gary, the brake technology has improved over the years, but still 500 laps here is very taxing on the brakes.
Oh, a crash up in turn 3. Dale Jarrett and the number 57 of Morgan Shepherd came together in extensive damage to the Dale Jarrett car. He took a pretty good shot from Morgan Shepherd. And that car is against the outside wall. We see Dale moving around inside the cockpit. That's good news, but that car is very badly damaged.
A lot of water and oil running out of the motor. It may have been a blown motor.
Yeah, he might have blown the engine going into the turn.
One of the stars last weekend at Dover, Dale Jarrett, with just an excellent run before he was eliminated from competition. And now his race appears to be over in the third turn. Now, perhaps Dale Earnhardt will choose this time to come in and see if they can get that problem corrected, because it appears as if we're going to be yellow here for quite a while. There is liquid running down the racetrack from Dale Jarrett's car, and so the track crews are going to be on the surface, we would guess, for several laps. You can see how Dale Earnhardt's crew is waiting for him. There are pits on both the front stretch and the back stretch here, and Dale is pitted on the front stretch, and indeed here he comes into the pit area. Jerry Punch will explain what's happening. Jerry.
Well, Dale Earnhardt will bring the Goodrich Chevrolet in. They just told me a minute ago that the car was missing as they came off the corner, but about the middle of the straightaway, the car would begin to clear up. And it sounds more like a carburetor problem, as Richard Childers and the crew now looking underneath the hood. They thought maybe the carburetor may be loading up with fuel and not clearing out as well, which would cause it to sputter a little bit coming off the corner. They have the hood up. They are trying to decide what the problem is. Of course, in a short track, you have a little less time than you would have on a super speedway under caution. So they have one man watching for the pace car. They put the car back down. Childers gives Earnhardt the okay side, and we can find out what exactly the problem is.
Well, I didn't see them do anything. It looked like that was more of a diagnostic type check. They really didn't do anything yet. I think they're trying to figure out what the problem is.
Well, there's good news. Dale Jarrett is out of the race car and walking across the track to the infield. He doesn't appear to be injured in any way, but he certainly did take a shot. He's wearing a leg brace there on the right side. And we have the tail end of the crash. Here's what happened.
Well, of course, he had already spun into the wall, and Morgan Shepherd had gotten into him. I agree with Gary. I believe that he might have blown the engine as he went into that turn. Morgan was about 8 or 10 car lengths behind him before they went into that turn.
And Dale Earnhardt is coming into the pits for a second time. Jerry?
Well, we were talking about them. They looked under the hood, and as Gary said, they were trying to diagnose the problem. As yet, the problem is undiagnosed. They cannot determine what's causing it to skip. Now, they're going to change to alternate ignition here. They're going to take the breather off and change from one ignition amplifier to another. They already have them mounted inside the hood. They've switched it over beside the motor. They put the motor back down. He will fire it up here as they're trying to get the car fired. Now they're going to have to push the car to get it started. And boy, here comes the pace car. They had better get it cranked. They're going to lose a lap. It is not yet fired. Now it fires, and he beats the safety car with the crowd roaring here in turn 1. Earnhardt stays on the lead lap. Let's go to Larry Newber.
Jerry, there is some real head scratching going on in the pits right now. You know, it's early in the race, so many times in a Winston Cup race, you'll see people, well, they want to pit to make sure they got the right setup. But as the booth has already mentioned, it's so hard to pass, so we better not pit. We can't give up the track time. But we may have a tire problem ensuing here this day, so we want to make some changes or switch our tires. Let's go ahead and pit. Well, but the weather might be moving in. Maybe we shouldn't pit, because we give up the track time and it rains, we really lose out. So Dale Earnhardt, as he pits again, is the only guy pitting, and that's the reason why nobody else is coming in. Jerry?
Well, Dale Earnhardt back on pit road again, and whatever they switched didn't do the trick, because Earnhardt's car is still sputtering and missing, and they are going to try to do something different here. They're going to change the wiring. Now Dale refires the car. It sounds pretty good. He is down and away. Safety car coming by, and again, by the skin of his teeth, 3 car lengths, the defending Winston Cup champion goes back out. So we are here at Martinsville under caution for the second time today. Dale Earnhardt has his troubles as Rusty Wallace leads. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
We're back at Martinsville, and there's some real work going on in the Dale Earnhardt pit. He comes in every single lap that we're running under caution and just barely beats the pace car out each and every time. He has not gone down a lap, but there is still a lot more work to do on that car before they get the problem corrected. Here he comes in once again for another stop. That's Phil Parsons coming in right ahead of him, and Phil has been in for a total of 13 laps, so he's 13 laps down to the field. Earnhardt back in again. They've been told that the next time around they'll be getting the green flag, I believe. So this Richard Childress-led crew has got some real work on their hands to get him out and back in a competitive situation.
You know, they're putting the air cleaner on right there. They took it off for a lap. I think they took it back behind the pits to look at it. I really don't know if they're sure whether it's an electrical problem or a carburation problem. It seems like it's pretty hard to diagnose. They're only getting about 30 seconds each time they stop before the pace car comes around to try and stay in the lead lap, and they've been pretty successful so far.
You can see the pace car stayed out for this lap, and it has turned its yellow lights on top out, and so they will be going green next time. Earnhardt will stay on the track this time, so they're going to try it and see if that car runs any better. We will go back to green on lap number 24 with Rusty Wallace leading. Bill Elliott is running second. Jeff Bodine is third. Terry Labonte fourth. And fifth is Alan Kowicki. Then comes Neil Bonnet, Greg Sachs, Ricky Rudd, Michael Waltrip, Darrell Waltrip, Brad Teague, Blake Speed, Sterling Marlin, Mark Martin, Brett Bodine, and Rick Wilson. And once again, it's a very slow start as Rusty Wallace puts him down and takes the green flag.
Wallace gets just enough of the jump off the restart so that he doesn't have to worry about Elliott being right on his back bumper when he goes into that first turn.
You know, with this many cars still running on the racetrack, when Dale Earnhardt finally got to the start-finish line to take the green flag, Rusty Wallace was halfway down the back straightaway. These cars are end-to-end halfway around the racetrack right now.
Now a bit of a gap opens up between Wallace and Bill Elliott, as second, third, and fourth remain very close. Bodine leading Terry Labonte there in third and fourth position, as it's pretty much now a single file formation around the half-mile racetrack. Kirk Shelmerdine, the crew chief on the Dale Earnhardt car, and Jerry's with him.
Kirk and the crew are standing here watching Earnhardt. It is not a car, it's definitely not running any better. Let's talk to Kirk and find out. Kirk, you didn't have much time to work on the car. Do you have any idea what the problem might be?
Everything we normally look at with a problem like that is okay, so we're not sure what it is.
Well, they changed ignitions, they looked at the carburetor, they took the breather off and checked that, but the car is still sputtering. In fact, it's getting a little bit worse now, so they are definitely concerned for Earnhardt's chances today and for the point championship.
Dale's certainly not making up much ground, and that must be extremely frustrating for a crew chief to not be able to figure out exactly what the problem is.
Well, I've been in that situation so many times. I almost feel sorry for Kirk because there are so many normal things like he was talking about that you change. They've switched to their backup ignition system. That didn't solve the problem. They took the air cleaner off. They looked at the carburetor. Apparently, they think that's okay. It is frustrating trying to find a problem. Usually, when you do find it, it's some small little thing.
And it must be equally as frustrating for a driver, Ned, especially one who is in the battle for the Winston Cup Championship.
Well, it really is. This is one of the most trying times that he can have all during the year, especially with the battle for the championship. And the fact that he's won here at Martinsville, always runs so well. His car's handling well. He knows that he can be up there running with the front running cars, and he was not so slow down the straightaway, and that's where he's losing the speed is on the straightaway. Now, one fellow who is not losing any speed is Darrell Waltrip. He started in 20th position. He is now running in the 9th position. You can see him at the tail end of this front pack of cars in the orange Tide machine. He is really getting around this racetrack.
Darrell Waltrip, car number 17, was the winner last year of this race in the dramatic finish that we showed you on our Open, as two cars tangled horns in the final lap, and Darrell went on to win his only race of 1987.
Now, his brother, Michael Waltrip, is running about 30 car lengths behind him in the Country Time Lemonade Pontiac. Michael hit the wall a few laps back. Quite a bit of damage to the right rear of his car, but we don't see any smoke coming from it, so evidently he's okay. He hasn't come into the picture yet as they come off turn 4. There he comes into the picture of the yellow car of Michael Waltrip.
Although this is certainly an endurance contest for 500 laps, you got to think, as Larry Newber alluded to a few moments ago, that some of the crews are thinking perhaps this will be a shorter race, because indeed we have had rain in the area. It rained last night. It was raining this morning. A very heavy atmosphere with dew and mist in the air. And you got to be thinking that perhaps this rain could develop at any moment and shorten the entire 500-lap distance.
Well, you're right. The crew chiefs have got to keep one eye on the sky all day, trying to decide, well, you know, the race really isn't official until you get over the halfway point. So most of the teams have always paced themselves. Well, let's just take care of the brakes, take care of the engine, because it's such a problem here keeping brakes and keeping the engine running good all the way through the race. Now they got to be thinking, well, after the halfway point, this thing could end any time. We need to be in a position to win.
Alan Kulwicki trying to take away that fourth spot again from Terry Labonte. However, Alan is unable to do so. He got the nose of the car inside of Labonte in turn number 3, but could not successfully pull off the pass. Just a demonstration of how indeed difficult it is to pass here at Martinsville.
Rusty Wallace has managed to move away from that 4 cars that we see on the screen now that are running 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You see Wallace's car some 15 car lengths out in front of him.
Anytime on a short track that you see somebody pulling away, then you see another car like Bill Elliott right here, and then 3 cars almost stacked up behind Bill Elliott. He's not really holding them up, or they'd be almost
trouble down in turn 1. Harry Gant, the car's on fire. As he goes into that turn, apparently the engine let go and some of the oil got out on the exhaust or something. But Harry Gant, hard look Harry in the Winston Cup Series. Boy, he does fine in the Busch Grand National Series.
He sure does. I mean, this guy certainly has demonstrated how good a race driver he is in the Busch Grand National Division, but things just not going his way in Winston Cup.
Well, I tell you, that is an example of where the term blown up came from. That motor blew up.
And I guess, Gary, the fire that we saw is that oil got on the exhaust headers or something, and that's what...
It came up from under the car and got on the headers that burned as it was going out. Plus, there was flames coming out of the exhaust pipe, so there was also oil in the exhaust system.
And how about this? Rusty Wallace is making a pit stop, and Jerry Punch is there. This seems to be an unscheduled stop, Jerry.
Well, not as much as they were concerned about tire wear and looking at these right front tires in particular early today here at Martinsville. Rusty comes in. They have already changed right side tires. Outstanding job of the pit crew. Barry Dodson, Jimmy May car, and Norman Kosamisu puts a second can of fuel in that car, and they had left side tires on the car. Dale Earnhardt back on pit road trying to diagnose this problem. Rusty Wallace will come off the jack and move back, and he will take a pit spot back up toward the rear of the field. Rusty moving back on the track in turn 1.
You could see Dale Earnhardt's crew back under the hood again. One of the men was holding a timing light. They're going to check the timing on that car as we watch more and more cars making pit stops.
There's the crew once again buttoning up the hood of the car and sending Dale back out on the racetrack, trying to keep him from going a lap down. Here's a replay of the Harry Gant story.
And boy, you can see the fire was already there as the engine blew going into turn 1. He got it up on the outside of the track. He drove that car up there purposely to try to get it out of the groove and also to try to keep it under control, because he had a feeling that maybe oil would be coming out from under there, getting on the rear wheels, and the closer he could get to that wall, if he did hit it, the easier he would hit it.
And so we are under our 3rd caution period of the afternoon. And we are live at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway for the Goody 500. Track crew still out on the track cleaning up the Harry Gant blown engine. We're going to try to contact Rusty Wallace here. Rusty, this is Bob. You got a copy on me?
Bob, go ahead.
A little surprising to me, Rusty, that you made the pit stop there. Was that scheduled or unscheduled?
I know we're scheduled. We just didn't know the car's really running good. We didn't know what the tire wear was going to be, so rather than get ourselves in a problem, but we just figured we'd come in and check it early, and maybe if we had a problem, we could cure it, but no, nothing's wrong with it. That was a scheduled stop. We just had to take a look at our tires.
All right, your restart in 17th position. You going to have any difficulty moving up through the field here on this very tight racetrack?
500 laps, so should have enough time. I just have to be careful. A lot of cars in front of me I don't trust. Some I do.
You're on the Goodyears. They seem to be holding up well.
The Goodyear tires are doing just perfect today. Those guys have really got their act together, doing a fine job.
All right, Rusty, we'll talk to you later. Now, Larry Newber can report on why Bodine and some of the others did not come in that time for a stop.
Well, Bob, I'm standing adjacent to the Bodine and the Elliott pit, and we all down here thought that if the leader came in, that the rest of them would follow suit with the tire questions and all, but that just didn't happen. I talked to Waddell Wilson, Jeff Bodine's crew chief. He said, well, it's always a gamble, and when Jeff decided he wanted to stay out, he sort of set the precedent for everybody behind him. He said the tires are holding up real well. The drivers are saying there's no sense at all that the tires are going away, so we decided to stay out, but yeah, we figured that Rusty stop was planned. I think some cards are not being shown. Jerry Punch?
Well, they had a huddle behind me going a minute ago here in the Earnhardt pit. I think they were calling goal line plays, but actually they're concerned. They put all their heads together trying to decipher what the problem is. They all came back down pit road during this caution flag. They changed some more wires in the ignition system. It has not helped the car at all. They are trying to decipher what can happen next. What can they do next to the car, the next yellow flag. But so far, Earnhardt still missing, and missing poorly, problems here at Martinsville.
You know, when a car misses down towards the end of the straightaway like Dale Earnhardt, that usually points to the carburetor. The car wouldn't start for him one time like it was flooded, so that points to a carburetor. I'd be looking at the carburetor if I was that crew.
All right, you can see that there's a lot of oil dry on the racetrack because of the Harry Gant blown engine. So we're going to take another break and return to Martinsville, Virginia Speedway in just a moment. Lap number 46 of 500 at Martinsville. The race is under green once again, and Bill Elliott has the lead. Terry Labonte is in second position. He passed Jeff Bodine when the green came out. Bodine is back in third spot. Then Alan Kulwicki, Neil Bonnet, Greg Sachs, Ricky Rudd, Darrell Waltrip, Blake Speed, Sterling Marlin, Ken Schrader, and Ernie Irvin. Labonte is looking pretty strong here as he's right on Bill Elliott's back bumper.
Yes, he is. I believe that Elliott is holding him up right now. He made a good move on the restart, got around Jeff Bodine, and both of those cars have moved away from Bodine just a little bit. But Labonte certainly is putting the pressure on Bill Elliott, but Elliott knows that if he maintains the lower part of that groove, that it's going to be awfully tough to get around him.
Elliott in the Ford and Labonte in the Chevy. There were 9 Fords that started this race, 7 Chevys, 6 Oldsmobiles, 6 Pontiacs, and 4 Buicks. The number 88 car, driven by Greg Sachs, has performed well in the first 50 laps of this event. Sachs, of course, will be the regular driver for this Buddy Baker team in 1989. Right behind him is Neil Bonnet, and there's the subject of another great deal of speculation for 1989. Some have Neil Bonnet going to Rick Hendrick in next year.
Well, it is a known fact that Neil Bonnet will be leaving the team that he's driving for now, the Raybach team, the Valvoline car number 75. And word was here this week that Morgan Shepherd would be in that car in 1989.
Behind Greg Sachs in the number 88 car is Ricky Rudd in car number 26, the Quaker State Buick, and then comes Darrell Waltrip in car number 17.
You know, I spent some time in the garage area yesterday during the final practice sessions, and I was watching a lot of these teams scuff in their brake pads. There's a new type of brake pad out that Ricky Rudd was scuffing in. Several of the teams have elected to run this new type of, not really experimental because we've been kind of working with it over the last several years, but this will be one of the first Martinsville races for this many cars to run this new, it's called a carbon metallic brake pad, and we'll have to watch and see if the cars were able to keep their brakes good all through the day.
There's Rudd in the number 26 car, owned by Kenny Bernstein, who is here this weekend watching his car and driver perform. Meanwhile, the first 4 cars are still nose to tail on the track with Bill Elliott, as Ned alluded to a few moments ago, appears to be holding up Terry Labonte. Terry is sure trying to find that slight mistake by Bill that would allow him to go into the lead.
Yeah, I believe if Terry can get around him, I believe he can pull away from him, but getting around him is going to be a tough chore. And Bill Elliott knows, too, that as long as he keeps Terry Labonte and Jeff Bodine and Alan Kulwicki back there, he's making them abuse their race cars more than he's abusing his by running out front, because they're, and when I say abusing, you're talking primarily about the braking system of the car. That's the thing that goes away first here at Martinsville, and they're really having to brake to keep running over him going into the turns, and he knows that.
Well, you know that Terry Labonte would like to lead this race. He'd like to go on around there, but he's not that determined to do it right now this early in the race. Bill Elliott doesn't mind picking up points for leading. Maybe he can get, like he did last week, get the points for leading the most laps of the race. That pays an extra 5 bonus points. So he doesn't mind leading, and as long as Terry Labonte's not bumping him or putting him at risk, he's going to be content just to stay right where he is.
While we watch the first 4, we can tell you that Rusty Wallace has moved up to 12th position from his restart position of 17th. So Rusty is running well and trying valiantly to get back up among the leaders.
So certainly he is one car that's able to pass then on this track that is tough to pass on.
The first 4 and now the second 4 that are running right together. That is Neil Bonnet, Greg Sachs, Ricky Rudd, and Darrell Waltrip.
And then right behind them comes Lake Speed, and that's the pack of cars that Rusty Wallace will be in, and Wallace just picked up another position. There's the car number 44 of Sterling Marlin. The next car, there's the 27 car of Wallace. He just moved around. Kenny Schrader in car number 25 the lap before. Now he's working on the car number 44. And you saw that Sterling Marlin gave him some sort of a signal there, said go on the outside. But that's tough to pass on the outside because Sterling doesn't want to give up too much track position, but he is allowing some space on the straightaway.
And here he comes, passing on the outside in turn number 1, so he picks up another position. That number 2 car, by the way, back there is Ernie Irvin, and he started in 29th position and is running very well. He is only 11 points behind Ken Bouchard in the battle for Rookie of the Year honors.
Boy, that is tough. You know, Rusty Wallace has new tires. Most of these guys that he's trying to pass and racing with have older tires, maybe 40 laps more on their tires than what Rusty has on his. But that automatically doesn't mean you're going to the front, like on a lot of tracks we've seen that are wider with more room. At Martinsville, you just got to bowl your way on through if you're going to make it around this many cars.
Here's Rusty inside of Lake Speed, turn 1. Rusty passes another.
Well,
nice
that car
movie.
is working so well.
You can see him set him up coming out of corner number 4, Ned.
Yes, you could. The lap before he tried to go on the outside. Here's Sterling Marlin going on the inside of Lake Speed. Now he takes advantage of the fact that he was pushed to the outside. But he set him up by trying him on the outside, and then the next lap made his move on the inside and moved away.
That was a pretty good chain of events we saw right there. We saw Sterling Marlin passing Lake Speed for a long time. Here comes Rusty Wallace. Sterling waved Rusty to the outside. He said, if you're going to pass me, you're going to do it on the outside, and I'll give you a break. And then he knew when Rusty got in front of him, Rusty was going to root his way under Lake Speed to get around him, and Sterling was able to follow him right on through the hole. So that worked out real well.
Oh, we had a crash in turn number, actually it's just a spin in turn number 4 as Michael Waltrip got loose and did a 360, but keeps going. He's got some steam coming out of the car, though. It could be something other than just a spin.
And, of course, this will bring out the 4th caution of the afternoon, and I suspect that we'll see some of the other drivers come in. Here's the pace car waiting to come out. Now, he's coming out into the 3rd turn. He's on the backstretch and will come out in front of Bill Elliott.
So the pace car moves out onto the racetrack as Bill Elliott, Terry Labonte, Jeff Bodine, Alan Kulwicki, Neil Bonnet, Greg Sachs, Rusty Wallace, Darrell Waltrip are behind the pace car. Now we're going to see if anyone chooses to come in. Again, there are pits on both the front stretch and the back stretch. Elliott, I think he faked out Terry. He indicated he was going to go into the pits and then decided not to. Labonte did go in. So did Neil Bonnet, Sterling Marlin, Lake Speed, and others. And you can see the Junior Johnson crew going to work on that number 11 car.
Now, while we were watching Rusty Wallace make his move up through the field there, just before then, it looked like Bill Elliott was holding Terry Labonte up. But just before this caution come out, Elliott had moved away by about 4 or 5 car lengths. Here's Sterling Marlin beating the Budweiser Chevrolet out. And so Terry was getting a little bit loose. Here's the replay of the spin by Michael Waltrip as he came off of turn 4. Look at Dale Earnhardt go by on the inside. Boy, what a good move he made to get by there. Let's take another look at it from a different direction.
Another close call for Earnhardt, but he survived it. Watch the upper right portion of your screen as the number 30 car gets sideways. Does a complete 360, and Earnhardt just to the inside, making it through by a whisker.
It's hard to imagine that he could even see at that point with all that smoke that was coming from Michael Waltrip's car.
We talked many times earlier in the race about how this track can be a points buster. Well, in that particular case, Dale Earnhardt survived a possible points busting situation. We are under caution for the 4th time here at Martinsville. We have live coverage this afternoon of the Goodies 500, and we'll be right back. Back at Martinsville, and in just a moment, the green will be coming out once again as the pace car has pulled off the track. Bill Elliott will lead them down once again to a restart. 4th caution is over. Elliott stands on the gas, and we resume on lap number 69. Now Jeff Bodine is in 2nd position with Terry Labonte having made a pit stop. Kowicki is 3rd. Greg Sachs is 4th. Darrell Waltrip is 5th. Then comes Rusty Wallace in 6th, followed by Ken Schrader, the number 12 car of Mike Alexander, and then Kyle Petty and Mark Martin.
Bill Elliott doesn't seem to be too concerned. He hasn't made a pit stop yet. We're over 70 laps into the race, and that is really almost beyond the time that you would normally come into the pits. Bill Elliott, Jeff Bodine, Alan Kowicki, all of the front cars have not made a pit stop as of yet.
Elliott apparently happy with the set of tires that's on his car right now, and he figures maybe there'll be another caution. And we have a lot of cautions here at Martinsville. We've had 4 already in the first 70 laps, so he figures, well, if that's the way it's going to go, I'll just stay out there and catch me a caution a little bit later on and not give up his track position.
There's Bodine, very close to Bill Elliott. Look at this pack of cars, and boy, you sure got to have good brakes when you're running in a pack of traffic like that, Jerry.
You really do, Bob. You really do, Bob. You know, Gary Nelson talked about the new brakes that are using here that a lot of people are using. They're not really that new. They've been around for about a year and a half, and they're actually made in England by a company named Alcon, which is sort of a derivation of March, the IndyCar chassis people over there in England. Let me show you what I mean. Now, here are the old brake pads that were used for many, many years. In fact, some of the cars still have them used today. They're very thin. There's an asbestos component to these brake pads. The brand new brake pads that are being used here, this new Alcon brake, is very thick. You see them there? They're quite thick, and the piston has direct contact on the back of this pad to push it down against the caliper. These brakes here are very good, but they're very expensive. Almost $3,000 for a set of these new Alcon brakes. Bill Elliott has them on his car. These brakes are on the front only of Rusty Wallace's and Terry Labonte's car. They have the old brakes on the rear. Let's go up pit road to Larry Newber. Larry?
Well, Jerry, I'm standing right behind the Terry Labonte pit and very close to Rusty Wallace, Jeff Bodine, and Bill Elliott. And we're all kind of surprised here that the other 2 leaders didn't come in the pits. Here's the set of tires that just came off of Terry Labonte's car. We've looked them over. The wear is close to normal on all of them except the right front. I asked Tim Brewer to describe, well, what would you call this tire? He said, very, very sticky. The rubber, the outer layer of rubber, has rolled up during the last green flag lap segment. He is quite surprised those other leaders didn't come in and doesn't know just how many more green flag laps the tires they currently have on those cars that have not pitted will last. Remember, fuel-wise, you can go almost 180 laps here, but the tires, hard to say how far.
Well, we certainly are not seeing, though, a repeat of what we saw last week in Dover when the tires would only go about 35 or so laps. We've had none of that kind of problem so far today. Ricky Rudd moving up through traffic, and there is Terry Labonte right ahead of him. Brett Bodine also a number 15 in the 44 car of Sterling Marlin. I guess the right front gets the most wear here on this track.
Yeah, when you go into these turns, you put a lot of pressure on that right front tire. A lot of the weight shifts over to the right front, and certainly that will heat the tire up a little bit more and cause it to wear. Unless you have the, Gary, I think I'm correct in saying if the car is loose, the back end not holding too tight, and you spin the wheels coming off the turn, of course, that would reverse the situation.
Well, you're right. This track has its own set of problems. Both front and rear take a lot of abuse, but you know what we were talking about with the brakes. The brakes seem to be the key here at Martinsville. As you watch Sterling Marlin and Mark Martin trying to jockey for position with Terry Labonte trying to get on around him. You think of the brakes as stopping the car every time they get to the corner, twice a lap. They really stand on the brake pedal. That generates an awful lot of heat, and one of the biggest fears of everybody in Martinsville with the new, more and more improved brakes, they're able to run hotter and hotter. What that does is transfers that heat into the right front tire, and if you're not careful, if you use your brakes too hard, that heat will actually melt the rubber on the tire and cause it to blow out just as you're going into the turn. So all these drivers are aware of that, and they're trying not to overuse their brakes.
All right, Dale Earnhardt in number 3 is running 11th, and right behind him is Sterling Marlin. Now Marlin making a bid for that 11th spot as he goes inside of Earnhardt going into turn 1, but Dale holds him off for the moment. Now let's see what happens as Earnhardt's car goes to the outside of the track and Marlin goes to the inside. In turn number 3, Sterling is going to get that position, I believe. Side by side at the moment, but yeah, as Sterling comes out of the corner, he's going to take over 11th position from Dale Earnhardt, and here comes Terry Labonte right behind Sterling Marlin. So positions are being traded here as Earnhardt is on the outside of the racetrack and losing positions. That car still apparently not performing the way he wants it to.
Boy, that's very close racing right there.
It's hard to watch Dale Earnhardt and see where he's really off. You know, he's almost staying, maybe losing just a little bit there on the straightaway to Ricky Rudd.
Endurance, that is certainly the name of the game here at Martinsville. And for Sterling Marlin, we asked him earlier in the weekend, do you talk to yourself during the race about saving the car for the end?
Yeah, you just have to, you know, you just have to tell yourself to get your foot off the brake, and it's hard to do because the corners is straightaways long and the corners are sharp here, so it's real tough. But you just have to talk to yourself all day and just, you know, baby the car, baby the brakes, and you know, you can't get back in 25th, 20th, and because the leader's got old track here, he'll lap you in a minute. So if you have to run hard, you have to run easy. So just have to find a happy medium and, you know, be easy on the car.
Sterling Marlin 8th in Winston Cup points coming in. Ricky Rudd has passed Terry Labonte.
And Labonte has new tires on his car. Of course, Rudd made a pit stop during that last caution as well. One fellow we want to give a call to, he's running in the top 10. We normally don't see him up there in the top 10, Bob, is Jimmy Means, driver of the Eureka vacuum cleaner Alka-Seltzer car number 52. He's running in 9th place, holding his own. Kyle Petty is currently running in 10th place, and Jimmy Means just hanging right in there.
And here is Ricky Rudd passing Sterling Marlin, or trying to. Rudd, yes, moves into 11th position now. So we've seen some real trading of positions back there in the second 10. Meanwhile, up front, it is still Bill Elliott leading Jeff Bodine and Alan Kowicki as we have completed 87 laps.
And there's still 25 cars in the lead lap.
And in 7th position there is Rusty Wallace. Remember, he made a pit stop very early, was among the first to make a pit stop, but he's moved up through traffic very well.
Now, he had been running in 6th position, but a car that's really on the move right in front of him now is Mike Alexander, who just passed Rusty a few laps ago. Rusty, I don't think, fought him too much. He said, okay, go ahead if you want to run that hard right now. I can see Bill Elliott. I'm speaking for Rusty Wallace, and he said, I don't want to punish my car right now. But there's Mike Alexander, who is running in 6th position, and that dropped Rusty Wallace back to 7th.
So there you have the first 4 as they approach some of the slower traffic now. Benny Parsons in car number 90 will move aside and allow the faster traffic to pass on the high side. Elliott maintaining the lead as we are nearing the 100 lap mark in this one. And here's a possible bid for second by Alan Kowicki. He moved to the inside of Jeff Bodine coming off the backstretch. Now they move down the front straightaway, and Bodine is holding off Kowicki's challenge, but let's see what happens in the corners. They'll trade paint right here. You can bet on that. Here they come out of the corner, still slower traffic ahead. That is Richard Petty, who is being lapped by the leaders, and Bodine successfully holds off a very serious challenge for second by Alan Kowicki.
Richard Petty has to be having some sort of a problem because yesterday he was one of the fastest cars in practice, and now he's being lapped. He's showing in 24th position right now.
Richard, of course, has won more times here at Martinsville than any other driver. Petty has 15 wins on this racetrack. The top 10 we review as we are 89 laps into the 500. That will complete the Goody's 500. Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Gary Nelson, Jerry Punch, and Larry Newber back at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway for the Goody's 500 Winston Cup race on this very cloudy, overcast, and in some cases rain-threatening afternoon. We're watching Bill Elliott lead Jeff Bodine, Alan Kowicki, and Greg Sachs. Darrell Waltrip is behind Sachs, then Mike Alexander, Rusty Wallace, and Ricky Rudd.
Bodine has really moved up to the pack since he made a pit stop. His car is really working. He's driving the Kenny Bernstein Quaker State Buick number 26.
We saw Alan Kowicki get a little anxious just before the break and trying to make a move on Jeff Bodine, and then as they went up to lap Richard Petty, Alan Kowicki had to pull back in behind Jeff Bodine. He seemed like he was really trying to go. Jeff didn't really want to give up the position. Jeff was fighting hard for that second spot, so I think Alan Kowicki decided to sit in behind him and hope for a mistake. Maybe he'll get another opportunity to get around Jeff.
Well, there are 21 cars showing in the lead lap right now. Michael Waltrip is the last car on the lead lap. He's running in 21st position. Bill Elliott, of course, the leader. Jeff Bodine second. Alan Kowicki third. Greg Sachs fourth. Darrell Waltrip fifth. Mike Alexander is sixth. Rusty Wallace seventh. Eighth is Kenny Schrader. Ricky Rudd now up to ninth. And in 10th place is Sterling Marlin. The car number 11 of Terry Labonte is in 11th. Jimmy Means has now moved back to 12th. Dale Earnhardt is 13th. 14th is the rookie driver Ernie Irvin. Kyle Petty has dropped back to 15th. He was running 10th not too long ago. Still in the lead lap, Mark Martin running 16th. Lake Speed 17th. Neil Bonnet 18th. 19th is Brett Bodine. Dave Marcus is 20th. And Michael Waltrip in 21st place, all in the lead lap.
And those showed as a lap down is the number 4 car driven by Rick Wilson. The 67 of Brad Teague, Benny Parsons, Richard Petty, Davey Allison, and also Bobby Hillin Jr. shown a lap down, and 2 laps down in the field is the number 10 car of Ken Bouchard. Now a bid for second position again, as Kowicki would like very much to get around Jeff Bodine and take over second, but the opportunity just doesn't present itself for Alan.
It was almost as if Jeff said, if you're going to pass me, you're going to have 2 wheels against that curbing on the inside, and it's just tough for Alan Kowicki not to really risk cutting a tire against Jeff's car.
You don't have to make a lot of contact here at Martinsville to put 1 or 2 cars or both cars out of control, so they have to be very, very careful not touching each other, even though you see a lot of contact here, but when you get side by side, you start banging around. It's awfully easy to get locked up and spin around.
Now here's Elliott moving inside of Michael Waltrip in the front stretch, and now there are 20 cars on the lead lap as Michael goes a lap down. Oh, and contact there between Jeff Bodine and Michael Waltrip as they came out of turn number 2. That was a pretty solid hit. I'll be anxious to see whether there was any damage to that number 5 car.
Well, we don't see any smoke so far coming from the tires, and that's usually the first sign. When they go into the turn, if there is smoke from the car, it would have knocked the fender in against the tire. But on the short tracks, they're able to cut out more of the sheet metal around the tire, so if they do get hit, you can see, we'll watch the replay as he comes off of turn 2, Jeff Bodine on the inside, and he does give Michael Waltrip a pretty good little tap there with the right front of the car, but I don't believe it hurt him too much, because with the sheet metal situation, it's not quite as critical as it is on the bigger track.
I think Waddell Wilson, Jeff Bodine's crew chief, might be looking for a new door when they get this car back to the shop, because it really did cave in the right side door on Jeff's car.
Running in that third position is Alan Kowicki, and Jerry Punch is near his pit.
Well, Alan Kowicki's strength at this track should not be that surprising. You know, when he came here from the Midwest around Indiana, a lot of the tracks he ran on out there are just like Martinsville. They're very strong, long straightaways, flat corners, and tight. Now, when Alan came here as a rookie back in 1986, he had his best run. He finished 4th. This year, he's had the same race car on the pole at Bristol. He lost a lap at Bristol, made it up, and finished 5th. He also had a good run at Richmond in this race car. Lost a lap, made that lap up, and finished 5th. So no surprise at all, and Alan Kowicki is running as well as he is here today.
Brett Bodine making an unscheduled pit stop on the backstretch. He's the first of the cars that were running in the top 20 to make a green flag pit stop. We've run 110 laps so far. There's, as Larry Newber pointed out earlier, they can go about 180 laps here on the tank of fuel, so they don't have to worry too much about fuel.
Well, it's costly under green like this for Brett Bodine. 4-tire stop under green. It's got to be over 2 laps that he'll lose, maybe 2.5. Close to 3 laps he'll be down.
And he had just been lapped by the leaders before he came into this.
Neil Bonnet is also being lapped in the number 75 car. He was running very well in the early stages of the race, but has been dropping back, and now the first 3 put a lap on him.
That'll leave 17 cars in the lead lap. Ricky Rudd has now moved around the 27 car of Rusty Wallace. So Rusty driving very conservative right now. Now, maybe this set of tires that he has on right now is not quite as good as the ones he had on earlier, and you've got to wonder if he wishes he had not made that pit stop. But he's driving very conservative there now.
I was watching Rusty Wallace just a few laps ago. When he gets on the gas, the back wheels spin. The car's a little loose under power. He's having a hard time getting off the turns without the back end trying to get loose on him. So he's going to have to make some adjustments. I'm sure he's not happy with this set of tires, considering that he was the early leader in the race.
The first three have separated themselves from the others, as it is Bill Elliott, Jeff Bodine, and Alan Kowicki, first, second, and third. Then back in fourth position is Greg Sachs, who is having a fine run for Buddy Baker this afternoon. The top 15 we'll show you now, with 115 laps completed. Darrell Waltrip in fifth. In 6th through 10 position, Mike Alexander, Ricky Rudd, Rusty Wallace, Ken Schrader, and Sterling Marlin. And 11 through 15, Labonte, Means, Earnhardt, Erlin, and Petty.
Unscheduled pit stop for Rusty Wallace. This Kodiak Pontiac, a flat right rear tire, and a tough break for Rusty Wallace. He will lose a lap on the green flag pit stop for a flat right rear tire, and the crew cannot believe the pedal up they're having here at Martinsville.
It is incredible, not only in Martinsville, but really since that crash at Bristol, this team has not had real great success, although Rusty has run good in a couple of races.
Well, he did a tremendous job last week at Dover of fighting back 2 different times. He was 2 laps down and finished third in the race. So he has run very well, but they've had a lot of things happen to him. And boy, I'm sure that they are second-guessing themselves now on that first pit stop they made. Now, maybe that tire would have gone flat too, but they got to be wondering, Gary.
Well, I don't think he's in too bad a shape if the race continues to run under green. He just lost 1 lap with that flat right rear tire, as far as I know, and the leader should be pitting sometime in the next 40 or 50 laps. So we'll have to watch and see if he can get his lap back.
All right, let's go down to Jerry Punch again, who can show us that tire that just came off Rusty's car.
Well, they're having a real concern here. The Goodyear engineers are standing by to take a look at this tire that Rusty Wallace came off the car. And now Wayne Torrance from Goodyear is taking a look to see if there's a cut place in the tire. A lot of crews have come down here trying to look at this tire, but they are concerned about the tire to see if it's wearing or possibly coming apart. And now they have diagnosed the problem. There is a cut segment here in this tire. On the shoulder of the tire, Jimmy Maycar here is trying to take a knife and diagnose exactly where it is. As they open up and see that there may be a small sliver cut in the shoulder of the tire, and that may have been the undoing for Rusty Wallace. He came in, took on a new tire, but lost laps on the speedway. Right here's the problem for Rusty Wallace.
All right, and when I mentioned a few minutes ago about how this, and a bid for second now again, as Kowicki is still trying to take over that second spot from Jeff Bodine. I think he may have it this time. Yep, Alan Kowicki moves to second position. When talking about the luck of the Rusty Wallace team in the past few races, I think that only points out the determination and the skill of Rusty himself, because he has had things like that go wrong, but every time seems to battle back and is right there at the end of the race.
Well, he's a hustler. There's no question about it. And that team, they do the things that they have to do. They really work hard and trying to keep that car running up front. And when they do have a disaster, well, boy, they come right fighting back.
It took a long time, Ned, but Alan finally got Jeff.
Well, he made the move going into turn 1 down on the inside and made it stick for himself. And that's the way you have to do it here at Martinsville. You have to set a man up, and it did take a long time. And let's go down to Larry Newber in the pits for more on that story.
And I'm with Paul Andrews, Alan Kowicki's crew chief. I thought for the last 25 laps, you guys might have been the fastest in that trio. Does Alan think so, too?
Yeah, we do. We do think we're running pretty good. If it wasn't for some of the lap traffic, he does feel he would be leading right now. Some of the lap traffic did slow him down a little bit. The car is working exceptionally well, and he's real pleased with it right now.
Any comments about the tires? I'm really surprised. I didn't think he could go a full tank load or 180 laps on one set of tires.
Well, we were looking at Bonnet's tires and some of the other tires that came off in that pit stop. They do look good. Those yellow spikes, the tire wear is not as bad as it was the other day. So their tires are looking good.
Well, Gary and Ned, one other phenomenon about Martinsville is how the rubber normally builds up in the corners. And I'll tell you, the last few laps, I've been seeing a little more pieces flying than I did in the earlier laps. And I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if it's routine, but there's more that's building up on the racing surface.
All right, and Allen is making a bid for and successfully getting the lead from Bill Elliott. So we were right when we were talking about how Allen was being held up when he got around Bodine. He caught up quickly to Bill Elliott, and now he shoots past Elliott and goes into the lead.
Seems to have the fastest car on the racetrack. We'll watch it again as he comes down turn 1, just like he went on the inside of Jeff Bodine not too many laps ago. Moved right down on the inside of the racetrack and took the measure of Bill Elliott, ran even with him off of turn 2, knowing he has the advantage, though, when he goes into turn 3. When you're up the side of a car, Elliott has no choice but to back off and let him go.
Well, that was a beautiful Martinsville pass right there. Alan Kowicki did it perfectly. Didn't have to rough up Bill Elliott. Just kind of drove under him. Bill Elliott knew that he was fast and just fell in behind him.
We have one of the cars that was in the top 10 in the pits. Mike Alexander, the number 12 Miller High Life Buick, is in for an unscheduled
And
stop.
to have the hood up on the car, Bob, he was showing some smoke just a lap or so before he came into the pit, so this might be terminal for Mike Alexander, who had made a good run. He was running in the 6th position at 100 laps.
Boy, at the rate that they're traveling here today, they're not really slowing down much. They're acting like this is a sprint race, especially Alan Kowicki here. He's now pulling away from Bill Elliott, lapping car after car. It's almost like every couple laps they put somebody else a lap down. This is pretty unusual for Martinsville, considering they're on the tires that they started on, and we're up to lap 132 right now.
And there's Mike Alexander's car being pushed behind the wall, and a very unfortunate set of circumstances for Mike, who was running in the top 10 when the problem developed for him.
You know, Bobby Allison is recovering from injuries suffered at the Pocono race earlier this year, driving that 12 Miller High Life car. I spoke with Bobby Allison on the phone last night, and boy, I tell you, it made my day. I've been really concerned about Bobby. I got a chance to finally talk to him. I got to visit him in the hospital, but he was unconscious. Now Bobby sounds 100%. Bobby is his own self, and I'd like to say hi to you, Bobby, and we wish you would come back soon.
And all of us also express our same sentiments. Here's probably one of the most sought-after drivers in Winston Cup racing. A lot of teams would like to have him driving for them, but he'd like to stay in his own. So what are your plans for 1989, Alan?
Right now, we're trying to put all the pieces in place to come back with my own team a little bigger and better next year. You know, so far, all the offers I've had to drive for other teams have not been any better, you know, than the team that I'm running. I think we've got a lot of potential, and we're real close to winning races. So right now, I'm probably going to be back running my own team with Xerox as a sponsor for next year.
So that's the story about Alan Kowicki, who right now leads the Goodies 500 here at Martinsville as he passes Bill Parsons and puts Bill another lap down. Bill, of course, had trouble in the very early going. And look at the interval that Allen has opened up over Bill Elliott. Still back there in third position is Jeff Bodine, and now Darrell Waltrip runs in fourth. We're live at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway for the Goodies 500, and we'll be back right after this. Back at Martinsville, Virginia, where Alan Kowicki in the Xerox Ford car number 7 leads this race. However, he was supposed to have come in for fuel a couple of laps ago and is either experiencing some radio problems or is trying to stretch it because he shows no signs of coming in for that fuel stop.
Bob, I would be a little surprised that he would need fuel this early. He's on the 145th lap right now. I would have thought he could go 175 to 180 laps right now, but I don't know. Maybe he's not getting too good a fuel mileage.
The guy on the move is definitely Darrell Waltrip in car number 17. Elliott may be out of fuel, or at least he's slowing dramatically for a pit stop. Here he is coming off of corner number 4 and into the pits. Elliott rolling to a stop. Jerry Punch will call this stop.
Well, the car is not running when he comes by us here and rolls to a halt. Bill radioed in and said the car started sputtering over in the backstretch, so they may have tried to strain it too far on fuel. One thing about this racetrack, you burn more fuel here at Martinsville than any other short track on the circuit. Now, most of the crew chiefs Elliott's going down in 16.7 seconds. Most of the crew chiefs told him before today's race he would expect us to be able to go 170 to 180 laps, but we would be remiss to try to consider stretching it much more than 145 or 150 because you pull so much gear here, you have to burn a lot of fuel, and you burn it up quickly. Elliott ran 145 laps and ran out.
But Alan Kulwicki is still out there on the racetrack, and now the question is he trying to stretch it too far? He's in corner number 3. Let's see if he comes in this time for the stop. No, sir, he stays on the accelerator.
It's always been one of the things that amazed me. This is the slowest track we run. This is the shortest track we run, and yet we get the worst fuel mileage here at Martinsville.
The number 26 car and the number 17 car are side by side as Jeff Bodine takes himself out of the serial and goes in for a pit stop. There's Rusty Wallace right behind Darrell Waltrip. The 26 of Rudd and the 17 of Wallace, or rather Waltrip, are battling for that third position. Here's Rusty on the inside. Remember, he is still a lap down from that flat tire that he experienced a few laps ago. Jeff Bodine has completed work on that car in the pit area, and he rolls back out onto the racetrack.
Now, Rusty Wallace and, of course, Bill Elliott and now Jeff Bodine are hoping that this thing will stay green for a while, that the others will have to come in on green flag conditions as opposed to a caution.
Well, there's a good chance after this round of pit stops with no cautions that Rusty Wallace will be, again, the leader or near the lead, depending on how long the pit stops take.
So Alan Kulwicki is staying out there. And really, it seems to us, stretching his luck as far as fuel consumption is concerned. Larry, down in Alan's pit, what are they telling you down there? Is Alan coming in soon?
Bob, we have all been prepared down here for the last 6 laps for Alan to come in. Yes, the radio is working. No, he's not overly concerned about fuel right now. Here he comes. He's ducking into the pits. Alan Kulwicki has decided to come in. The man who started this race in 6th position comes in. He was hoping for a yellow flag. He felt his fuel pressure was solid. He saw the other leaders coming in, so he decided to wait. He was comfortable that everything was going well. They are changing the right side rubber. Now they go to the left side. No change on the left side tires. Alan Kulwicki makes the calculated move to decide to stay with the tires that he has. He stops at 19.2 seconds. And really a big surprise is only the figures on the right side are changed. I'm looking at them right now. They are not showing any extra wear. Alan has lost the lead, however. He has had contact with another race car, but the tire wear looks excellent on Alan Kulwicki.
Darrell Waltrip is also in for a pit stop. They've completed work on that car quickly, and Darrell goes back out onto the racetrack. The leader of the event is the 26 Quaker State Buick, driven by Ricky Rudd. He's right ahead of Alan Kulwicki.
Well, he's a lap ahead of Alan Kulwicki. That was a long pit stop by Alan Kulwicki, almost 19 seconds. They had a little trouble getting the right rear on the car, and now 17 and 27 and Alan Kulwicki are all on the same lap. Walter made a much quicker pit stop. He was some 5 or 6 seconds behind Alan Kulwicki when they went into pits, and he came out right behind him. You can see just how far he is there right now. Now, Kulwicki, we'll see if he can go up and pass Ricky Rudd and get back in the lead lap with those new tires on.
So Rudd is going to have to be having a pit stop before long also, but for the moment he is in the lead. Remember, he pitted off sequence with everybody else, so it will probably be a few more laps before he is in need of a pit stop. So the first round of pit stops has been completed here at Martinsville. We'll be right back. Every part of the country has its unique and beautiful aspects, and we have seen some great peaceful scenes here in Virginia. We came on Thursday. It's been a great weekend, and we are seeing some great racing here to cap everything off. Now, Kulwicki in number 7 is trying to go into the lead lap, and he does successfully. Here comes Waltrip trying to do the same thing. Remember, Ricky Rudd pitted off sequence, and so therefore it will be a while before he has to come in. He still remains the leader, however.
But that does put Darrell Waltrip and Alan Kulwicki back in the lead lap. They are running in the 6th and 7th position. That means that we have 7 cars in the lead lap. Ricky Rudd is the leader. Greg Sachs hasn't stopped yet. He's in 2nd place. And the car number 44 of Sterling Marlin, who made a pit stop during one of the early cautions, is running third. Terry Labonte is running fourth. Dale Earnhardt running fifth. Now, all of those drivers did stop on the earlier cautions, as did Ricky Rudd, so they can run another perhaps 25 or 30 laps before they'll be coming into the pits.
Here are the number 9 car and the number 5 car. They are a lap down to Ricky Rudd, but they are in 9th and in 10th position. Bill Elliott and Jeff Bodine.
Well, that shows how fast things can happen here at Martinsville. There's only 3 cars in the lead lap right now. If the yellow flag were to come out, Darrell Waltrip, Alan Kowicki, and Ricky Rudd would be the only 3 cars in the lead lap. Rusty Wallace is trying to get back up there, but he's having his problems again. It looked like he was moving, then he's falling back again.
Well, Gary, the car number 11 and 44 and 88 are in the lead lap, but they'll have pit stops coming up before too long.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Ned.
Elliott led the first portion of this race, grabbing the lead at the drop of the green flag. Jeff Bodine has been in contention also since we started this race. Jeff started the event in 3rd place in that Levi Garrett Chevrolet. 166 laps are completed. It could be as much as 35 or 40 more laps before Rudd and those others will have to come in for a fuel stop.
The only one of those that's running in the top 5 right now is Greg Sachs, who is currently being shown in 2nd place. I don't think he stopped during any of those early cautions, but they're about ready to bring him in now, so he has certainly got the best fuel mileage of anyone up to this point. But Greg Sachs, who is running 2nd, is coming in the pits right now.
Good call, Ned. Here's the 88 machine in the pits as the 26 remains on the racetrack. There's the Greg Sachs car.
And he just went a lap down to Ricky Rudd as they changed the right side tires on that car. That's what everybody else has been doing, filling it up with fuel, change the right side tires, and send him on his way. And Greg has had a lot of success here on the Martinsville Speedway in the modified division of NASCAR.
Pretty good pit stop for Greg Sachs as he picks up speed. There's Rudd, the leader of the race, in car number 26.
And he's just about to put a lap on Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt is currently running in the 4th position. Now, he stopped at about the same time Rudd did. Rudd, we understand, can go another 30 laps before he'll come into the pit. So Ricky Rudd putting a lap on Dale Earnhardt, who, as we say, is running in the 4th position.
So Ricky Rudd right now is doing something that everybody always wishes they could do, and that is get off sequence just at the right time. When everybody else stays on the racetrack, you make your pit stop, then it pays off later. Everybody's always trying to guess what's going to happen later into the race. Ricky Rudd right now has done a good job. He's got plenty of gas and go another 30 or so laps with the fuel that he has.
And the car is handling well. Let me correct myself. Earnhardt had dropped back. He was not running 4th. Both Alan Kowicki and Darrell Waltrip had passed him. So he was really running in the 6th position when he got lapped just a moment ago by Ricky Rudd.
So the top 5 are Rudd, Sterling Marlin, the number 11 car of Terry Labonte. 4th is Alan Kowicki, and 5th is Darrell Waltrip. Dale Earnhardt is making another pit stop. It has not been a very good race for Dale Earnhardt so far. See some damage there on the right front of the race car. They're changing rubber on the right side.
And they're putting brand new tires on. You can see the sticker on the lower corner of that right front tire they put on. Very good pit stop, as usually is the case when he comes in and the Richard Childress Goodrich team takes over.
And you can see the leader, Rudd, in the green 26, right behind him. Jerry Punch is watching the progress of Ricky Rudd.
You know, they had a meeting this morning in the Ricky Rudd car hauler. Kenny Bernstein, Larry McReynolds, Ricky Rudd, and the crew, and their goal today was just to finish the race. Why, you say? Well, when they have finished the short track race this year, they have finished 2nd. They finished 2nd earlier in the year at Richmond and 2nd at Wilkesboro, and the other 4 short track races they had not finished. They had 3 engine problems and 1 wreck. They said, hey, if we finish today, we got to finish 2nd or better, so let's just finish. That's Ricky Rudd's philosophy. He wants to finish here in Martinsville.
But I'm sure he would like to finish 1 spot higher than he has on the short tracks and win here at Martinsville this afternoon. So he leads with 175 laps completed. We'll be back with more of our live coverage after these messages at Martinsville. Fifth caution of the afternoon out on Martinsville Speedway. It's Michael Waltrip who has spun down the backstretch. He has had an ill-handling race car since this event began. He spun down in turn number 4 earlier and now loses it and sits headed the wrong direction on the backstretch on lap number 179.
And this is going to be a break for Ricky Rudd, who would have had a pit stop coming up in about 20 or 25 laps. Let's go to Larry Duber with Ricky Rudd at the pits.
Ned, they were ready to go. I'll tell you, McReynolds got on the radio right away when he saw the yellow flag. Michael Waltrip spun out right in front of us, so they were the first ones to know that there was going to be a yellow flag. They're going to all 4 corners of the car. Goodyear on all 4 corners. Of course, Kenny Bernstein's very active in drag racing. This has been a Goodyear team from beginning to the middle to the end, and Ricky Rudd gets in and out very efficiently. A great stop for the leader of this race.
And a great break for the leader of the race, Rudd, as there's Sterling Marlin, who's also in for a pit stop. Jerry Punch is there.
Sterling Marlin got pinched in coming into pit road. Now they've already changed right side tires. They move around the left side of the car. The Piedmont Airlines Underall Oldsmobile. Sterling had his best run ever on the short track back in the spring here when he finished second. Good pit stop, 4 fresh tires and fuel. Sterling Marlin heads back to turn 1.
And so does Terry Labonte. And finally, here comes Dale Earnhardt, also out of pit road.
Alan Kowicki made a 4th tire change. He heads back down pit road. So does Michael Waltrip as Darrell Waltrip comes into the pits.
All right, let's go back and see if we can pick up on this Michael Waltrip incident.
Well, he was already spinning in front of the leader. You could see Ricky Rudd coming off of turn 2 as Waltrip had spun down to the inside, hit the inside retaining wall, and bounced back up on the track. Now let's go to the pits and Jerry Punch where Darrell Waltrip is.
Well, Eddie Dickerson, Jeff Hammond, Sandy Jones, and the Tide crew. Bill Wilburn going to work on Darrell Waltrip's Chevrolet, a brand new race car, Banjo Matthews prepared car that's brought here. 4 fresh tires. They pulled some sheet metal away, the left rear where he did a little bit of bumping with some of the other cars, and he's down and away.
Now, he had to catch up to the field before he could come in because he was almost a lap down, if you remember. He and Alan Kowicki had passed Ricky Rudd and got back in the lead lap, but he was not too far in front of Ricky Rudd when this caution came out, so he had to wait until he caught up to the field before he could come into the pits.
And the caution does remain out on Martinsville, Virginia Speedway because of a crash in the backstretch involving Michael Waltrip. We'll be right back. We're back at Martinsville, still under caution in the Goodies 500, with Ricky Rudd in the lead, Sterling Marlin running second. Third is Terry Labonte. 4th, the number 7 car, Alan Kowicki, and then Darrell Waltrip being shown in the top 5 at the moment. It's a very beautiful racetrack, despite the fact that it can be a very ugly situation for the drivers. Here is an ESPN quick fact, or is this a quack fact, Jerry Punch? Quick facts are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Yo, Punch.
Hey, hello. Hi. You know, nothing beats a relaxing mountain picnic here on a Sunday afternoon. Beautiful area, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and find a nice pond, catch a few winks, soak up some rays, maybe nice cold soda, listen to some tunes, and maybe even check out the scores if you get a chance. But you know, we're not at a park in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We're here at Martinsville Speedway. And this duck pond, well, it's one of the featured attractions here. When the fans come every Sunday, they get out of their cars and walk to the main gate, escorted by hundreds and hundreds of duck and geese. It's just an outstanding attraction at Martinsville, but you would think you were at some natural preserve in the mountains. The fans love coming here for racing and for wildlife. And so before we get back to racing, I'm going to catch a few winks, I think. Yo! We'll see you after a while.
All right, Punch back to work in the pit area now. The green has come out, and we are back to racing on lap number 185. Now, Rusty Wallace has passed Ricky Rudd, so that means that Rusty is back on the lead lap.
That is correct. He would be in the 6th position. 6 cars on the lead lap. Just a moment ago on the restart, he was able to move around Ricky Rudd and get back in the lead lap, so we'll see if he can stay there. Now Jeff Bodine moving up. He would like to get back in the lead lap as well. He's running 1 lap down, so is Bill Elliott, who's not too far behind.
Well, Larry Newber has some interesting conversation with NASCAR officials. Ricky Rudd pit. Larry, what was that all about?
Bobby Scruggs is standing by down here, and he and Larry McReynolds engaged in about a 2-minute conversation during that last yellow flag. That's a long talk in the middle of the race. Ricky was warned to slow down when the yellow flag comes out, so something to keep in mind for the rest of this race. NASCAR officials are watching that. No penalty, but it was a long conversation.
So Rudd will be forced to slow down a little bit more under the caution, but while the green is out, his car is working well and maintaining the lead.
Well, I tell you, this is a score.
There's trouble over in turn 4. Rick Wilson has spun over in turn 4, and the caution is out again. This will, well, no, the caution is not out. I started saying it'd be a break for Rusty Wallace, but Rick Wilson has gotten his car going. As you can see, he spun down on the inside of the racetrack, so no caution.
And so Jeff Bodine now sees an opportunity to perhaps put himself again on the lead lap with the leaders. He's right behind Ricky Rudd and trying to get a lap back, as is Bill Elliott. Now we go back and take a look at what happened up there in turn number 2, Rick Wilson.
Well, he's already in the spinning process, going around down on the inside of the racetrack, makes a complete 360 and just heads right on away.
It really didn't look like he ever let off the gas, did it, Ed?
No, it really didn't. Looks like another car might have bumped him as he started off at that turn, causing him to spin. Of course, we couldn't see that.
So the green remains out now, as there are 5 cars on the lead lap.
Well, make that 6 now that Rusty Wallace has moved back into the lead lap and just ahead of Ricky Rudd. He's just barely on the lead lap.
What a nightmare trying to score these kind of races, especially when somebody is out of sync like Ricky Rudd and several of the other cars were earlier. Now they've all had the opportunity under this last yellow to make pit stops. They're all back to 0 again. So it'll be a little easier to keep up with the scoring from here out unless somebody gets out of sync again.
Now Ricky Rudd is going to be making gestures to the flag man as he comes down through here and say, hey, get him out of the way. He's holding me up. I've got to get away from Bodine back here. I'm sure that Ricky feels in his mind right now that he's faster than Rusty Wallace, but Rusty Wallace feels that he's faster than Ricky Rudd. He said, I passed you, and I'm out here in front of you right now. So it's hard to tell. Those cars are pretty evenly matched right now.
Rudd looks like he's trying to set Rusty up at times, but just hasn't found the chance to pass Rusty and once again put him down 1 lap.
Ricky is probably having to run harder right now than he wants to. He's trying to keep Bodine a lap down, trying to get back up and put Rusty Wallace a lap down. We understand that his brakes might not be as good as they need to be, and boy, it's too early in the race to lose your brakes. They're not quite at the 200 lap mark yet. So
Ricky is in a real predicament here. If he does have brake problems, he wants to take it easy. His brakes will come back if he doesn't use them too hard. He would like to keep a guy like Rusty Wallace and Jeff Bodine. He would like to keep Jeff Bodine a lap down, plus get Rusty a lap down, because he knows he's going to have to contend with them later, as strong as those 2 cars are. He really has some decisions to make right along in here.
He has dropped back a little bit now from Rusty Wallace, not running him quite as hard as he was a little bit earlier, and I suppose that he is maybe trying to conserve those brakes a little bit.
So Ricky Rudd leads the Goody's 500 at Richmond on the short track. Looked like he had a sure win. Is it hard to swallow defeat under circumstances like that?
Well, it's pretty tough. You know, you keep telling yourself there's another week. Certainly you've got other opportunities and there's other days, but the chances that I've had as far as having everything lined up my way, being able to look like we're going to win the race with very few laps to go and then have something go wrong, it hasn't happened to me too many times. Of course, it happens to everybody, but I guess the worst thing about it, you don't get lined up in that kind of a position very often, and you need to take advantage of it when you do. So it's hard on you, but yet what can you do about it? It's over and it's done with, and just look forward to next week, but it's kind of hard to take.
Well, he certainly has to be enjoying himself right now in the lead. Now, what about that brake situation that we mentioned, Larry?
Bob, the information you guys got off the scanner was absolutely right. The brakes aren't just right. Now, this is that new carbon metallic brake pads that they are using. They were one of the first teams to use it. And as Gary pointed out a little earlier, one of the real serious problems is that they work too well sometimes and they build up too much heat. And Larry McReynolds does not know exactly what the problem is, but Ricky says, I don't have as much brakes as I had in the early part of the race.
Of course, they've talked on the radio and said, hey, we've got 300 laps to go, more than half of this race. So, Ricky, try and conserve them as much as you can. Get us home.
Are those brakes, Gary, used at all the tracks or just on one like this that requires a lot of braking?
Well, what we've got here is, like Dr. Jerry Punch had talked about earlier, the Alcon type brake. That is a braking system. That is a caliper and brake rotor that is different than what most of the teams have been using for the past several years. Now what they're doing on top of the Alcon brake system that some of the teams are running, just about all of the teams have gone to this carbon metallic brake pad, brake lining. So almost all the teams are using this carbon brake lining. But what that does, it creates more heat. Just because your brakes are working better, you're going to generate more heat. And that heat will cause the brake fluid to boil inside of the brake calipers. And when that happens, the driver knows right away because the brake pedal goes almost to the floor. And they'll call you on the radio every time and tell you they've got some kind of a brake problem because the drivers don't like going into the turn at Martinsville and having that brake pedal go all the way down to the floor.
What a nightmare that must be. All right, let's review for you now the top 15 as Rudd continues to work on Rusty Wallace to try to put him a lap down once again, but Rusty is able to stay ahead of Ricky Rudd for the moment. Top 15, Rudd, Labonte, Sterling Marlin, Alan Kowicki, and Darrell Waltrip. Also on the lead lap in 6th is Rusty Wallace. The lap down is Jeff Bodine, Bill Elliott, Craig Sachs, and Dale Earnhardt. 11 through 15, Schrader, Ernie Irvan, Lake Speed, Davey Allison, and Neil Bonnet with 205 laps completed. We're back at Martinsville for the Goody's 500 Winston Cup race. Nice to have you with us on this Sunday afternoon. It's kind of a gloomy and gray day here in Virginia. It's held the crowd down just a little bit, but nevertheless, a good crowd is on hand despite the weather conditions. There is the leader, Ricky Rudd, in the number 26 car. In second position is the number 11 of Terry Labonte. Sterling Marlin is in third, but now stands to lose that to Alan Kowicki, who moves to the inside and takes third away from Sterling Marlin. So Kowicki is third. Marlin is back to fourth. In fifth position is Darrell Waltrip. Now, Davey Allison is sandwiched between the number 11 car of Labonte and the 7 of Alan Kowicki.
You can see from that camera shot there as Terry Labonte came off the turn and got on the gas pedal, his car right in here, when he hits the gas pedal, the car almost gets light on the left front tire. There's so much horsepower going to the rear tire that concrete is giving such traction under acceleration. Right here, you can almost see a little bit of daylight underneath his left front tire. Right there, look at that. He's really getting a good bite off the turn. That's why he's up in second place right now.
Well, Davey Allison, who's trying to move around the car number 11 of Terry Labonte, is running in 14th position. He's 3 laps down, but his car is running well right now.
So there's Kowicki, having moved into third position now. And again, you can see how the left front tire comes off the ground on some of these cars as they power out of the corners.
That is like drag racing. You know, Bob, a lot of the drag strips have gone to this concrete starting gate. This is almost a drag strip here in Martinsville.
And there's Darrell Waltrip now as he is catching up to the number 44 of Sterling Marlin. And now here comes Alan Kowicki on the outside of Davey Allison in the front stretch. And he moves side by side with Davey now. Let's not forget about the 17 car of Darrell Waltrip. It's been very competitive all afternoon.
Oh, Darrell, he has such a record here at this racetrack. You know, as a driver, he's won at this track for all the owners that he's driven for. He is really phenomenal here at this racetrack. But, you know, one of the things I remember with Darrell, working with Darrell here at Martinsville, that he just kind of takes his race one lap at a time, doesn't get in any hurry, and he always seems to be there at the finish if his car stays together.
As a matter of fact, Darrell Waltrip has won 8 times on this racetrack. Here's Jerry Punch in the pit area.
You know, Darrell Waltrip really wanted to win this race today at Martinsville. His win last year here really changed the tone of the entire team. Jeff Hammond, Eddie Dixon, and all the crew, the tie team really came together after that hard-fought last lap victory here a year ago. They built a brand-new race car. Banjo Matthews built the race car for him, and they brought it up here 3 weeks ago to do some tire testing for Goodyear. So he's had more laps on these tires with a brand-new race car than anyone else up here. Little wonder Waltrip running so well here at Martinsville.
Here's Alan Kowicki still trying to get around Davey Allison, as Davey has moved to the inside of the racetrack. But it's tough to pass a car that's running as good as Davey is. He's running at least as good as the 11 car, but he's given some room there, but he's still racing hard.
Got a little loose there in the third and fourth turns. Now some contact between Kowicki and Davey Allison.
Yeah, Kowicki cut in a little quick on him coming in there. He wanted to let him know, say, hey, I'm running for position up here. I need to move on around.
I think I saw a hand gesture or two there, didn't I?
Yeah, that was some kind of sign language there, I believe. But, you know, talking about the brakes, and I can remember in the 70s, in 77, 78, 79, working here at Martinsville with Darrell Waltrip, we were always concerned with the brakes. One of the things we did in the garage area was one time we put a real stiff spring on the brake pedal. So he really had to make an effort to push on the brake pedal. He wouldn't be just kind of resting his foot on there and keeping the heat in the brakes. But after a while, we just felt like the driver's leg just got stronger, and he still found himself, you know, just kind of riding the brake, not letting it cool on the straightaways. So then after that, we put a little red light on the dashboard. Every time his foot was on the brake pedal, the light came on. And Darrell said that really helped him become aware of how often he really was on the brake pedal. And later we did it with Bobby Allison and Ricky Rudd here at this track. And all of them have agreed that once you do it one time at this racetrack, you learn how long the red light, how to keep the red light off as long as you can.
Look at Alan Kowicki. He is really moving well in that car, dirt tracking it off those corners, and now he threatens to take away second position from Terry Labonte. Let's see if he accomplishes it. They come off corner number 4. They're side by side, a little bit of contact. Terry Labonte just won't give up second spot. He maintains the position, but hey, Alan Kowicki is looking good.
Yes, he is, and especially coming off of the turns, Bob. You see he was able to dip down there as Labonte's car shot out a little bit, as Gary Nelson mentioned there a moment ago. He goes into turn 3 side by side with him, but he's not accelerating quite as good off of turn 4. That time he got a pretty good fight. He should be able to pass him down going into turn 1.
And here is Kowicki now. Let's see, they still remain side by side. Labonte fighting for everything that's in it, but Kowicki successfully passes Terry Labonte, and now Kowicki moves to second.
That coming off of turn 2 is Labonte's weakness, it looks like right now. So Sterling Marlin will try to do the same thing as Labonte's car goes up a little bit as he comes out of the turn.
So there is second, third, fourth, and fifth right there together. The number 7 of Kowicki, the 11 of Labonte, the 44 of Marlin, and the 17 of Darrell Waltrip. Let's go down to Jerry Punch once again, who's with Tim Brewer.
Well, Tim Brewer is the crew chief for the Terry Labonte car. And Tim, we were talking a minute ago about the left front tire on Terry's car coming off the ground, coming out of the corner. Why is that?
Hey, Jerry, you know, we put so much emphasis over the past few years on really hooking the car up and putting the power to the ground up off the corners. Seems like we're kind of overdone it today. You know, we're really killing the right rear tire on the thing. But hopefully we can change the stagger configuration later on at next stop or so and get the thing to run just a little bit freer, a little bit smoother line up off that corner, because I think it's really hurting the car right now.
Your car is sort of backsliding now. Kowicki has gone by, Sterling Marlin just passed him, and now Darrell Waltrip's working on him. Is there a problem other than just the handling of the car?
Yeah, there is. Like we were saying, you know, the car is too tight right now in the middle of the corner. He's having to hustle the car, work the wheel and the gas to get the thing off the corner. And after you do that for a number of laps, you know, it has a tendency to abuse the tires, and that's the reason the car isn't running that well right now.
Well, they are somewhat at a disadvantage here. They do not have the short track car they wanted to bring here. In fact, the car they won with at Wilkesboro earlier in the year, that was a car they wrecked a week ago at Dover, Delaware. So this car they're running today actually is an intermediate speedway car, not their short track car.
Well, what Tim was saying there is that the car is getting a good bite off the turns, but what it's not doing is using its front tires at the same time. So you've got 4 tires on the race car. You wish you could use all 4 of them equally to get around the corners and just use your rear tires maybe for driving once you get straight. Terry Labonte's car is carrying that left front tire, causing the car to really abuse the 3 tires that are still on the ground.
Yeah, you can't keep all 4 tires working on a track like this. You just simply, it'll catch up with you after a period of time. You can see the car continues to slip out a little bit. Darrell Waltrip's still on the move. He's running in 4th place there right now, right on the back bumper of Sterling Marlin in the Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. Marlin running in the 3rd position.
There is Darrell's progress. Started 20th, was up to 8th at the end of 50 laps, was 5th at the end of 100. was runner-up at the end of 150, and now at the end of 230 laps, he is in 4th position. There are 2 people that would like very much to see a caution flag come out right now. Terry Labonte, so they can perhaps free up that car a little bit, and also Rusty Wallace, who is continuing to run, or is he? I was just about to say he's continuing to run ahead of Ricky Rudd and be on the same lap, but that's not necessarily the case, as Rudd and Wallace are side by side. Who has the advantage here? That's Phil Parsons on the inside. They're drag race down the long front straightaway here. Rusty fighting desperately to stay on the lead lap, and Rudd would like very much to put him back, and I believe that Rudd... Well, I'm not going to make any judgment right now. They're side by side.
Well, he has the inside position. I think that he'll be able to take him after a couple of laps because the inside position is the place to go. You see, he gets hooked up coming off of that turn and is able to move ahead of him. Although Rusty's not giving up. He pulls it right back in there on the outside. But now, Rudd's car is hooked up good coming off the turns. He gets good traction, and he is able to move around.
Okay, so we go back now to 5 cars on the lead lap as Rusty once again goes a lap down. We'll be back with more of our live coverage here at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway. We are back for the Goodies 500 at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway with 239 laps completed, so we are very close to the halfway point. Well, Thursday night at 8 o'clock, right after Speed Week, we'll have for you the Grand Prix of Portugal, and here are some of the highlights that occurred in this, and there are the top 5 as we near the halfway point of the Goodies 500. The engineers on the train can look over the backstretch wall and see Martinsville Speedway as the train track runs right along the backstretch. And we welcome you back to Martinsville, Virginia Speedway, where Ricky Rudd in the number 26 Quaker State Buick continues to lead this race. And he, quite frankly, is pulling away from the rest of the field right now. Kowicki is second, Marlin third, Waltrip is fourth, and Terry Labonte is in fifth. But there's certainly no evidence that Ricky Rudd is experiencing a real serious brake problem.
Well, that car is working very well. He's driving it very well and is just pulling away from the field. He's about 6 seconds ahead of Alan Kowicki, who is running in second place. Sterling Marlin has moved up to third now. He got around Darrell Waltrip. Darrell Waltrip running fourth and Terry Labonte fifth. Those are the only 5 cars in the lead lap. And right now, Ricky Rudd is only about a quarter of a lap from lapping the car number 11 of Terry Labonte.
Now let's review our mid-race summary. Ricky Rudd, the leader at the halfway point. He had led 86 of the 250 laps. The average speed of the race, 73.961 miles an hour. 5 caution periods for a total of 30 laps. We have had 6 leaders and 6 lead changes and 5 cars on the lead lap at the halfway point. Those that are out of contention, Dale Jarrett involved in an early crash. Morgan Shepherd also involved in that incident. Harry Gann had an engine go away. Mike Alexander is behind the wall, and so is the number 30 car of Michael Waltrip. So that's where we are in the Goodies 500. And now we see Bill Elliott at number 9 and the number 5 car of Jeff Bodine as they battle for 7th position. And right behind them is the 2nd place car of Kowicki. Remember that Bodine and Bill Elliott are a lap down.
Just in front of them is Rusty Wallace, who is currently running in the 6th position. He also is a lap down. Alan Kowicki having no problem moving on the inside of Jeff Bodine. We saw him the first 100 laps trying to pass him for 2nd position, but now coming up to put a lap on him, is able to move up on the inside pretty easily. Although Jeff is hanging out there pretty tough, but he should get him coming off the turn and
the 3 that are in contention for the Winston Cup at this moment, namely Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt, and Rusty Wallace, are all a lap down. They are in the second 10, or the second 5 through 10. So at the moment, nobody stands to pick up a great amount of points on anybody else.
And now Dale Earnhardt, who is shown in 11th position, just a few laps ago was passed by Ricky Rudd. That put Dale 2 laps down. there are 5 cars that are 1 lap down, that being Rusty Wallace in 6th place, Jeff Bodine in 7th, or Bill Elliott now has moved into that position, Jeff Bodine in 8th. Greg Sachs is 9th, and the 10th place car, number 25, is Kenny Schrader, running 1 lap down.
You know, I was thinking about what we saw at the railroad tracks just behind the back straightaway grandstands. I mean, the grandstands go up to a fence, and then there's a railroad track right there. Then you go here to the front stretch, and right behind the front stretch grandstands is a big duck pond. So I got a feeling if we went way back in history when they first built this racetrack, they said we want to build a racetrack right here between these railroad tracks, between this duck pond, and make it as big as we can. And that is probably why this track is so out of proportions. The straightaways got longer because they couldn't make them any farther apart.
There's not much room to expand here. There are some areas at the end of the racetracks that you can expand a little bit, but who would want to expand this exciting racetrack? Jeff Bodine running in 8th position. He qualified 3rd fastest. With the speed so equal, can you tell the difference between a fast and a slow lap in qualifying?
You can really tell the difference. If you cut a good lap here at Martinsville, the car sticks getting into the corner, it turns in the middle, then you can get in the gas coming off. You really can feel that little bit of difference that you see in qualifying. You can feel it with the steering wheel, with the gas pedal.
So Jeff Bodine having a good race if he can only make up a lap and get back on the lead lap.
But the way Ricky Rudd is running right now, it's tough for anybody to make up a lap.
There are the number 27 cars, the number 9 car, and the number 7 machine. Elliott and Rusty Wallace a lap down. Coming up on the inside to pass Richard Petty is the 2nd place car of Alan Kowicki. Here are 2 of the 3 principals in the Winston Cup battle right there on the track battling together. Rusty Wallace and Bill Elliott.
It seems like Jeff Bodine dropped back just in the last several laps. He was almost inside of these 2, or really right with Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace. Now he seems to be falling back. See, he's just now coming on the screen, at the top of the screen. Jeff Bodine may be having some kind of a problem.
The number 9 car of Elliott certainly showing some muscle as he has picked up 2 positions in the last few laps, and now Bill Elliott goes to 6th. Meanwhile, it is still Ricky Rudd leading, and he has lapped the number 11 car of Terry Labonte, and so there are only 4 cars now on the lead lap. Let's see how Ricky passed Terry.
Well, as Terry Labonte's car went out a little bit coming off of turn 2, as we've seen it do so many times this afternoon, you see that little bobble there. Ricky Rudd moved on the inside of him and moved right around. Now there are only 4 cars in the lead lap.
Let's go down once again to the pit area. Larry Newber remains in the Ricky Rudd pit.
Well, this is Larry McReynolds, crew chief on Ricky Rudd's car. A little earlier, Larry, you said the brakes were soft. Apparently that went away.
I really didn't hear you, Larry.
A little earlier we talked about how the brakes were going away. Are they better now?
Yeah, I think you asked me about the brakes. Okay, as long as he can stay out front, not be smothered behind another car where it's knocking the air out of the air ducts, he's okay with them. Which right now leading the race, you know, it don't seem to be a big problem. He hadn't really complained about them in the last 50 or 60 laps, so maybe he'll stay like this the rest of the way.
Will he continue to try and lap as many cars as possible? Will he be ever coast at any time?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we don't have a choice but, you know, to just try to run as hard as we can down the straightaway, coast through the corner, and put as many of these cars down the lap that we can in case we do get into a problem.
Well, what Larry commented about was that Ricky is going to continue to try and put as many people a lap down as he possibly can. Remember, this is the guy who has won twice here in the last 5 years, and now he has led the last 6 short tracks in a row. Ricky Rudd is tough on the short track.
No question about it, Larry, but he's losing a little bit of ground right now to Alan Kowicki, even though Kowicki has been coming up through some of that traffic. Not long ago, he was about 6.5 seconds behind Ricky Rudd. He has cut that down to about 4.5 seconds now, so he has picked up 2 seconds. But we do keep in mind that Ricky Rudd is perhaps not pushing his car as hard as he absolutely can.
And we also mentioned the fact that as long as he doesn't have traffic ahead of him, everything is okay for Rudd because he doesn't have to use the brakes extensively. But within the next few laps, he will be approaching some of the slower cars and may have to employ a lot of braking. Meanwhile, we watch Alan Kowicki in second position. They move around the number 67 car, the Buddy Arrington machine that's driven this weekend by Brad Teague. And Brad started way up front of the race, but has dropped back and is not shown right now in the top 20. Ricky Rudd leads the Goodies 500 as we're live from Martinsville, Virginia Speedway. Back after these words. We are under caution for the sixth time. We ran quite a few laps there under green, but now a yellow flag, and Jerry Punch is there to call the Alan Kowicki stop.
4 tires for Alan Kowicki. He's down and away. A good pit stop under yellow for Alan Kowicki, but a possible problem for the Alan Kowicki team is they may have a radio communications problem. They told me they are unable to hear Alan here in the pits. In fact, they have even commented maybe we could help out a little bit because we have radio communications with Alan by way of our broadcast radio, so maybe we may have to relay a few messages later on for the crew here.
Well, we ran into a similar situation a few years ago at Pocono during an IndyCar race, and we will not be passing any messages along because that's certainly taking advantage of a situation that not all competitors have. Here's the reason why we are under caution. It occurred in turn number 4 as Jimmy Means and Michael Waltrip got together.
And Michael Waltrip has really been on television today quite a bit, not the way that he wanted to be running up front. This is the 3rd time that he's had a problem in spinning around, but this time he and Jimmy Means got together and he spun Waltrip's car down to the inside. And the reason for the caution, here he is in the pits getting some new tires on.
We saw a shot of Michael Waltrip going backwards for the 2nd time today and then coming to a stop along that yellow curb. What do you think the penalty is for parking on a yellow curb like Mike Waltrip has done today?
I think the track officers come out and give you a citation if you park there along the yellow curb. Anyway, Michael Waltrip has things fixed, and now he goes back out onto the racetrack. This is our 6th caution period of the afternoon, and we're going to take another break and be back with more of our live coverage. And we are back at Martinsville, and we went green and then we went back yellow. And through all of that, Bill Elliott tried desperately to get his lap back and couldn't. Another incident down in the 3rd and 4th turns is what brought out this caution. And here is Elliott's attempt to get back on the lead lap.
Boy, he really tried hard. He tried on the inside, then whipped to the outside, but Ricky Rudd said, nope, I got to keep you a lap down. You're too tough right now.
Davey Allison spun down in the 3rd and 4th turns. That's the reason for the caution. He kept going, however, and all is well. And you can see they're lining up for the restart. Now, an interesting thing here we haven't talked about. The slower cars line up. Well, they used to. Yeah.
Sometimes they do. They lined up on the outside. But today, the slower cars, the cars that are 1 lap down or more, are starting on the inside. But usually here at Martinsville, they start on the outside because the lower group is the faster group.
You're watching the Goodies 500 Winston Cup race on this Sunday afternoon, and we're glad you could be with us. And our live coverage today coming to you from Martinsville, Virginia Speedway. Just about to go back to the green flag.
Elliott will be trying once more to get his lap back. Rudd got the jump on him the last time. We'll see if he's able to this time. I believe Elliott will be a little more ready for it. Here they go.
Rudd once again with a good jump off the corner, and for the moment, and look at the contact there as Elliott nudged Rick just a little bit.
Well, there's 2 races going on right here, right up front. You got the lap down cars of Bill Elliott, Jeff Bodine, and Rusty Wallace, and then you got the lead lap cars of Ricky Rudd, Darrell Waltrip, and Alan Kowicki. All of them are racing each other, and Ricky Rudd's job is to keep all of them behind.
Waltrip in the 17 car is 2nd.
Boy, Alan Kowicki really getting shuffled back there in the car number 7. He was one of the fastest cars on the track before this caution, but he got on the outside, and Jeff Bodine and Rusty Wallace both went by him. Now, Terry Labonte banging on his rear bumper. The car number 7 of Alan Kowicki is running in 2nd place right now. Darrell Waltrip he's in 3rd. Darrell Waltrip is in 2nd.
Let's go back to the Ricky Rudd pit where Larry Newber has a report on tire wear. Larry?
Well, Bob, Ricky was one of several people that made uneventful pit stops back here. Rick Wilson, Benny Parsons, Brett Bodine, Mark Martin. The only stories really were Ricky Rudd and Rick Wilson. Rick Wilson started the race on Goodyear's, switched to Hoosiers, found them too slippery, went back to Goodyear's. Take a look at Ricky Rudd's tires. You think this guy's been doing some racing? There's some green paint. We're not sure if it's his own or Harry Gant's. Over there, another multicolored rainbow. Oh, there's a Savola Brothers car there. We think maybe Ken Schrader. I know there's not a Slender U car in this race, but boy, there's every color in the rainbow out here.
Yeah, a little mix and match there. Looks like a painter's palette, a multitude of colors. Now let's talk a bit about the backstretch pits, Gary. As I remember, Bobby Allison always liked to pit back there. In fact, at the end of the backstretch pit area.
Well, you're right, Bob. The theory that Bobby had, and I always thought it was the smartest thing to do here if you had the opportunity. When the yellow flag comes out on the front straightaway, if you're anywhere near the lead, you can dive into those back straightaway pits, get your servicing done while the other cars are having to run slow behind the pace car to wait to come around to the front straightaway. So when you're getting your service, these other cars are running slow, you drop the jack, you leave the pits from the back straightaway, and you run fast again. So you've really run a lot faster total lap than anybody who's pitted on the front straightaway, and you can gain the lead, you can keep the lead, or you can pick up positions just by pitting on the back straightaway.
And it works even better today since they're letting the pace car come out of the back pits.
The race for third and fourth position, number 7, Kowicki, and 44 of Sterling Harlan. There's a lap car separating those two. The lap car is Terry Labonte in number 11.
You know, it took NASCAR a few years, I think, before they really realized what Bobby was doing every time he elected to pit on the back straightaway. And so once he pulled it several times, they came up with a rule that said if you qualified if you were in the top 15, I believe it was, in points, and you qualified in the top 15, you had to pit on the front straightaway. So that took that option away from any of the front-running cars.
And here is the pace car that is situated, as you indicated, on the backstretch. And when it's called upon, it enters the track just going into turn number 3.
But that's really even more, like Ned said, more of an advantage now because the leaders know if they're pitted on the front straightaway, they take the yellow flag. Here on the front stretch, right here, they take the yellow flag, let's say. They would come around, and when they got just around the turn and headed down the back straightaway, right along in here, they got to be slowing down because the pace car is going to be in front of them, while the guy that ducked into those pits on the back stretch will have clear sailing.
The number 2 car of Ernie Irvin has been black flagged, by the way. Now, here is our caution summary. The first caution period on the 7th lap, Davey Allison with a spin. On the 16th lap, we have a problem here on the main straightaways. A car is really smoking badly. That's Lake Speed. And this could possibly go through another caution period. Then we had the Dale Jarrett and Morgan Shepherd accident. The number 33 car of Gant blew an engine. Then Michael Walter spun on the 66th lap, and he spun on the 179th lap. So you can see that Michael Walter began on lap 275 and on 281, the 28 car. So many of the cautions that have occurred this afternoon have been caused by the 30 car or the 28 car.
And another caution now as Lake Speed comes into the pits, and let's take a look at it as he went down the front straightaway. We'll see Lake Speed in that pack of cars, and you can see the smoke begin to bellow from that car as he goes down into turn 1.
So Lake Speed goes into the pit area as the pace car comes out of the pit area and picks up the field at the end of the backstretch. There you can see the scoreboard showing 296 laps completed, and there is the field slowed down behind the Pontiac pace car.
Well, I think the early cautions in this race had set a precedent. Ricky Rudd and all of these leaders aren't going into the pits. They're staying out there. That would have been a great advantage if Ricky Rudd had made a pit stop because probably Bill Elliott and all of the lap down cars would have stayed out and not pitted.
There's the smoking car of Lake Speed that is retired from competition in the Goody's 500. We'll be back with more right after this. Speed World, live at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway for the Goodies 500. Being brought to you by Xerex, the antifreeze coolant for extreme conditions. By Stanley Works. Stanley helps you do things right. And by Dickies, they're America's favorite work clothes. The geese on the pond behind us don't seem to be excited the way we are here on the racetrack itself. We are under our 8th caution period of the day with just a little less than 300 laps completed. You can see Davey Allison moving out of the backstretch pits as the lead is continued to be held by Ricky Rudd. A lot of unique things about Martinsville, Virginia Speedway. And one of those is located right down here in front of our broadcast position. Just coming off of turn number 4, here is a track fact. Track facts are brought to you by the Robert Bosch Corporation, makers of Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
You're looking at one of the most scenic short tracks in America, beautiful Martinsville Speedway, located here in Martinsville, Virginia. This track was built nearly 41 years ago, back in 1947, by the man who still operates it, H. Clay Earls. Now, Mr. Earls has a simple philosophy. You take care of the race fans, and they'll take care of you. He's been successful over the years. Now, nearly a decade ago, before people thought about handicapped parking spots at malls or shopping centers, or even on buses or ramps, Mr. Earls thought about the handicapped race fan. Take a look at what he did. He built this concrete pad here just out of turn 4. Now, the handicapped people can roll their chairs right up here within 10 feet of the racing surface and sit right here and get a bird's eye view of lap-by-lap competition here at Martinsville Speedway. He also thought about how he would get them here, easy, and get them out. Well, take a look. He built a concrete ramp. You come right from the outside parking lot, up the ramp, watch the race, and leave. Mr. Earl, certainly a man way ahead of his time.
Just one of the very unique aspects about this racetrack. You can see that the handicapped area is not positioned, not populated too much because of the weather conditions. The field goes by the handicap position out of turn number 4, and the battle is for the lead as Darrell Waltrip and Ricky Rudd are side by side, and Waltrip wants to lead a few laps.
And boy, he's trying to do it the hard way by passing on the outside, and he might be able to do it. Here comes Rudd back on the inside. Boy, that's a tough way to do it, Bob.
198 laps to go. Perhaps Waltrip said, okay, I'm going to lay back for the first 300 laps, and the last 200, I'm going to go for it. They are really grinding it out there for position. That's Kulwicki running side by side with Bill Elliott, and Kulwicki is in 3rd position. Elliott remains a lap down. It's been a very difficult job for both Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace to get their laps back. They have not been able to do so far.
And of course, the way they run it down, Bob, in case some fans have just joined us along the way, they made green flag pit stops back about the 140 to 150 lap mark. And Ricky Rudd had made an earlier caution flag pit stop, so had several other cars, and they just have not been able to get that lap back.
Well, they've been struggling all ever since then. Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace and Jeff O'Dine have been struggling ever since then to try and get their lap back. I think their cars are pretty fast. They've been able to keep Ricky Rudd right in sight, but they haven't had that little bit of extra to get up in front.
Now Rudd maintaining the lead by about 2 car lengths over Darrell Waltrip. And there now is Alan Kulwicki in 3rd position. So the first 3 now are running right together on the racetrack.
He's the only other car in the lead lap.
Let's go to Larry Newber in the pit area, who can show us how some of these cars are held together.
Now, Bob, you're looking at Michael Waltrip's car. You guys have been commenting about how many yellow flags he's been involved in. You can see all the yellow flags results of this race car. You can also see a lot of bungee cords holding the front end on. They've had problems with the body work. They've had a bent tie rod. They've got some gaffer's tape that's also holding the car together. The problem right now is a strut rod that was rubbing against the tire. So more work on the bungee cord, more work on the gaffer's tape, and Michael's standing by. Matter of fact, he just got in. They're ready to go back out.
We noticed that a while ago, those bungee cords that were holding on the front end of the race car. You know, Michael isn't one of those who is necessarily in a hot battle as far as the points are concerned, but to have the car just out there on the racetrack and showing up on national television is a lot for the sponsor, the Country Time Lemonade in Michael's case. Terry Labonte in the number 11 car working to the inside of the Greg Sachs machine, car number 88.
And of course that would be for position. That should be for the 7th position. Both of those cars are running 1 lap down.
But you know, we were talking earlier about how Ricky Rudd got out of sync and was able to put a lap on a lot of these more competitive cars like Bill Elliott and Jeff Bodine, who hadn't made pit stops for long stretches in the early part of the race. Well, Jeff Bodine's been trying to get his lap back, hasn't been very successful at it. So during that last caution, Jeff Bodine made a pit stop. Boy, almost, Greg Sachs almost spun out there. Jeff Bodine made a pit stop. That put him out of sync with just about everybody else on the racetrack. Now, Jeff, if the race goes a ways, Jeff Bodine here will be able to take advantage of a long green stretch here. If everybody makes their pit stops, he could do the reverse of what has happened to him. The reason that he got a lap down was because Ricky Rudd was out of sync. Now Jeff Bodine's out of sync. That may play to his advantage.
Well, it was a close call for Greg Sachs a couple of laps ago as he got the car completely sideways, but saved it.
Well, here's Kenny Schrader in car number 25 coming down on the inside, and they touched as they went into the turn, and Sachs really getting it sideways. That's really dirt tracking it, but he did save the car.
Did he slide far enough to do any damage to the rear tires, you think, Aaron?
I don't think Greg Sachs needs to worry too much. I think Ken Schrader hit that inside curve at the same time his right front tire was hitting up against Greg Sachs' car. I think the guy who had the most chance of having an alignment problem from that would be Ken Schrader.
Now Jeff Bodine is really moving up through the traffic. Remember, he's still a lap down. The 44 car is on the lead lap in 4th position. But Bodine in 5, Wallace in 27, and Labonte in 11 are all a lap down to the leader, who is Ricky Rudd, and 2nd place there is Darrell Waltrip, as those 2 cars have now pulled away from the field.
And here are those 2 cars that we saw a moment ago. They're still going at it. Kenny Schrader still trying to get around Greg Sachs. They've banged together a couple of more times since we saw that encounter there a moment ago. They are racing for position. They're racing for the 8th and 9th position there at the moment. Greg Sachs holding down that 8th position, but Kenny Schrader is trying to take it away. But right now he's backed off a little bit.
Ken Schrader, he has been trying awful hard. I've seen him right up against the curve almost all morning or all day so far. And here he is again, just inches from that curving.
We've completed 316 laps. And once again, we're watching Greg Sachs and Ken Schrader, the 88 and 25, battle for 9th spot.
Bob, there's still 4 cars in the lead lap. Ricky Rudd, the leader. Darrell Waltrip, 2nd. Alan Kowicki, 3rd. 4th place is Sterling Marlin. 1 lap down to 5th place is Bill Elliott. Jeff Bodine now has moved up to 6th. In 7th place is Rusty Wallace. 8th is Terry Labonte. 9th is the car number 88 of Greg Sachs. And the 10th place car is the car number 25 of Kenny Schrader. From 5th through 10th, they're all 1 lap down. As we see Davey Allison making an unscheduled pit stop and going back out of the action.
Davey Allison goes back into competition. It has been a very long and trying afternoon for Davey Allison. Among other things, he apparently is suffering from some brake problems, but is still out there on the racetrack trying to finish as high up as he can. And speaking of brakes, we have another one to take right now as we are live at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway. We'll resume our coverage in just a moment. It's lap 323, and we are under another caution at Martinsville. This because of debris on the racetrack, but it has brought nearly everyone in for a pit stop except Ricky Rudd. Now there goes Rusty Wallace out of the pits, Sterling Marlin, the 17 of Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt is out, the 25 of Schrader, Labonte, and Jeff Bodine. Let's talk about strategy here. Was this a good move by these guys?
Boy, it was a tough one. Bill Elliott came in the pits before he actually took the yellow flag. He got his 4 tires changed. Oh, Alan Kowicki's having some kind of a problem. They're jacking it up now. I think he's got a lug nut caught in the wheel, yeah. No, no lug nuts on the left front wheel. They're tightening it up now.
And he's going to go a lap down.
Oh, man, a tough break for Kowicki.
They're not going to let him go until they get all the lug nuts on. That official, he's pointing. You got to put all 5 lug nuts on before you can go, and that's the rule. He's really holding them up now.
And the pace car in the field has already passed, so Kowicki is indeed a lap down now after running way up there all afternoon long.
You might as well change the tires now that you've lost the lap, and you're in the pits with the NASCAR man holding them.
Well, I'll tell you, that will only leave 3 cars on the lead lap now. Now, Ricky Rudd did not pit, and I guess the reason is he's still got one more pit stop to make, and he just can't go the rest of the distance from here. Let's go to Jerry Punch in Alan Kowicki's pit.
Well, Dan, a real unfortunate incident for Alan Kowicki. He finally, frustratingly, goes down pit road. He was sitting there pounding the steering wheel and had his hand over his eyes. He couldn't believe what was happening. The car, he started to move away. There was a miscommunication problem. In fact, we'll get over with Paul Andrews and try to find out what the problem was. Paul, what actually happened in that pit stop? What happened there, Paul?
Well, here's a replay of Bill Elliott coming into the pits much sooner than everyone else, just as the caution flag came out.
You can see Elliott just got away before here's the pace car in the front stretch. Elliott almost went down a lap, but that move will put him first on the restart. See, Elliott's on the inside. He doesn't need to be there. Well, no, take that back. Ricky Rudd never made his pit stop. That puts Elliott on the inside. That's right. He's right where he belongs. New tires. Ricky Rudd sitting there with old tires. Maybe he can get his lap back now.
All right, we apologize to Jerry Punch there for interrupting him, but we were about to go back there. Now, what's wrong with Sterling Marlin?
As the green flag came out, I believe he blew. There's a lot of smoke from the car. He just pulled it up on the outside of the racetrack. A lot of smoke from that car, number 44, as the green flag waves. But Sterling Marlin now gets it down into the pit, so apparently he's out of harm's way, so the green flag should stay out. Alan Kowicki had just come back into the pits, and now he's gone back out again.
And look at this. Elliott has a lap back, and now Rusty Wallace is trying to do so. And what we have seen here in the last few laps, 2 of the 4 that were on the lead lap have really done themselves harm, namely Sterling Marlin and Alan Kowicki.
And, of course, these 2, Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace, were running a lap down, but with fresh tires, since Ricky Rudd chose not to come in during this caution period, they were able to move around, and so they need a caution. Now Sterling Marlin gets whatever it was fixed. He goes back out into the action. He's a couple of laps down right now, but boy, there was a lot of smoke coming from that car, so the fire extinguisher might have went off in that car.
It was either a fire extinguisher or maybe an electrical fire. Maybe they have some cooling fans that'll fan the rear end cooler. Sometimes the wires short out and the insulation will melt. It was one or the other, because he's back up to speed now.
And now Rusty Wallace and Bill Elliott would love to see another caution come out. Not because of an accident, certainly, but debris on the racetrack would certainly be a good break for them right now, because both of them have moved back onto the lead lap.
It makes you wonder about the strategy on Ricky Rudd's crew. You know, everybody pitted on that caution. They've gone a long time since they have made pit stops, and Ricky Rudd had an opportunity on that last caution. He stayed out there with the older tires compared to the 9 and the 27 car. They were able to get their laps back.
And look at this. Darrell Waltrip is going for the lead. He's got the inside line on Ricky Rudd down the backstretch. They're side by side entering turn number 3. I believe Waltrip is going to grab the lead here for Ricky, who has led the last several laps. And indeed, Darrell Waltrip leads the Goodies 500.
Well, I'm sure that his thinking, Ricky Rudd's thinking was, or the crew maybe, was that they had still had another pit stop to make. So let's just stay out here. But they perhaps didn't think about all everybody else coming in and taking on fresh tires and getting back in the lead lap. So as it turned out, it might have been too smart. Let's go down to the pits. Sterling Marlin is back in the pits. Jerry Punch is there.
Well, the problem with Sterling Marlin's smoking car, when the restart came out and the car wouldn't go, the ignition box inside the car caught on fire. He came down pit road with the car sputtering. Obviously, the ignition was burning. They put the fire out, and he went back on the racetrack. Well, he ran about a lap and a half, and the car quit. Apparently, they have burned a significant number of wires in the wiring harness, and now they have the hood up, trying to get that fixed, and Sterling is sitting here failing to there's smoke from outside of the cockpit. Tough break for Sterling Marlin.
Well, I've seen that before, and what it really, the thing you need to worry about the most right now is Sterling Marlin. Those fumes from that insulation burning will just, they're toxic, they'll just knock you right out. That car was full of that smoke, so Sterling Marlin has got his lungs full of that kind of smoke. I'm sure he's feeling some, he's wishing for some fresh air right now.
Let's go back a few laps ago and look at how Darrell Waltrip got the lead from Ricky Rudd.
Well, they came off of turn 4 and got on the inside of Ricky Rudd, and then as they went into turn 1, where they are right now, he pulled up beside of him, stayed even with him coming off of the turn, and then went on down the backstretch, drove in just a little bit deeper, not too much than Ricky Rudd, but is able to maintain that bottom groove. And of course, when he comes off of the turn, he gets the traction and takes the lead.
And so Waltrip now separates himself from Ricky Rudd by just a little bit. He's the defending champion of this race. Do you replay in your mind that exciting win last year at Martinsville?
I had to go back and look at the tape myself to figure out what happened. You know, Terry and I bumped a little going into 3, but really the whole deal started back here in turn 2. Terry got outside of Dale, and Dale put him in the wall. It slowed them both down. I had a full head of steam. I was able to get in under Terry, and Terry turned in front of me then, trying to predict his position. I nursed him. He shot into Earnhardt. The Red Sea parted, and I came through.
And that's the way it happened last year when Darrell Waltrip won here at Martinsville. And he's on his way to a victory again. There's Waltrip down the backstretch on lap 339. Second position is Ricky Rudd, and one guy who is not going to win his 16th race of his career here at Martinsville is Richard Petty. Larry is there.
Well, Bob, here's Richard Petty's car. I know many of you always wonder what's happening to Richard Petty. Well, the car has been in the pits for about the last 15 minutes. This is the all-time leading winner here at Martinsville with 15. They have a host of problems in the rear end of the car. Now, Ned and Gary have comment about Ricky Rudd and why they didn't stop. I talked with Larry McReynolds, and Larry felt that they could hold on to their position on the racetrack. They wanted to keep as many cars one lap down as they possibly could, but the strategy didn't work. He did tell me they only have 30 laps on the current set of tires they have on the car. Dallin and Darrell Waltrip's pit, by the way. Jeff Hammond made some good decisions, and Jerry Punch is right there.
They have really been biding their time here in the Tide pit. I'm with Jeff Hammond, the crew chief for Darrell Waltrip. And Jeffrey, the decision that you made a couple weeks ago to bring a new race car here may have made the difference. Tell us about the new car.
Well, back early in the spring, we talked about building a new rear steer short track car. So here about midway through the year, we went ahead and built us a new Banjo car. And it really seems like it's working well today. And, you know, if everything holds together, maybe we'll wind up winning a first short track race last year. We just decided we'd try something a little different. You know, we're just going to have to keep working on our other program, try to get it better also.
The big difference there is the front steer versus the rear steer. Now, back when Darrell Waltrip was dominating the short track, driving for Junior Johnson, he was driving a rear steer car. When he moved over to this team, he was driving a front steer car. They had very limited, if any, success. Darrell said, hey, let's go back and build an old rear steer car from Banjo Matthews and see what happens. And you see what happens. We're seeing the Darrell Waltrip of old running up front.
But you know, that's been an ongoing debate for the last probably 7 or 8 years in Winston Cup racing, front steer, rear steer. It seems to me over the last few years I've been keeping a pretty good eye on it. The drivers, when you give them a choice, they almost always go for the front steer car. But when you look at the record and you look at what's been happening, Dale Earnhardt's been exclusively rear steer. Bill Elliott has been exclusively rear steer, and most of the other drivers have gone back and forth over the years. So you almost have to say, well, here's the record on what rear steers have done. Here's the record on what front steers have done. Let's toss a coin. I think that's about what most of the teams have been doing these days.
Darrell Waltrip leads the Goodies 500 as we are now less than 150 laps from the conclusion of this race. We'll resume our live coverage after these messages. Coming up next here on ESPN, just down the road from Martinsville, Virginia, in Charlotte, North Carolina, the final round of the Senior PGA Tour, the Payne Weber Invitational. That will be live right after our coverage of this Winston Cup race here at Martinsville. And this person obviously has lost interest in the Winston Cup race and is awaiting a start of that golf tournament. Looks like she may be connected with the Rick Wilson team, and Rick has not had a particularly good day, so she's just sitting back watching, or not watching.
She said, wake me up when we take the lead.
Well, in the lead is being given the black flag. We'll see if we can find out what the problem is. Car number 21, the Citgo Ford of Kyle Petty. Now he makes the entrance into the back pits where he is pitting today. So Kyle really, too, not having a very good run. There he comes into the pits. It looks like some smoke coming from that car.
Kyle Petty in the pits for the Wood Brothers. He won't be associated with that team next year. Is there anything you can tell us about Kyle Petty in 1989, Gary?
Well, as you know, we've had this research and development team over this whole 1988 season under Rick Hendrick's ownership. Now we've been talking with Kyle Petty and a Charlotte businessman about taking over the team and going racing. Nothing's signed yet. We're still talking, but things look pretty promising.
All right, so that could be the situation for Kyle Petty in 1989. He goes back out on the racetrack. There, by the way, is Rick Wilson. We talked about him a few minutes ago as he's with the leader, Darrell Waltrip, and there are the number 9 cars and the number 27 car, and they are back on the lead lap once again, 3rd and 4th position. In second place is the 26 car of Ricky Rudd, and there is Darrell Waltrip, the leader of the race. So they're pretty comfortably back on the lead lap, and there, of course, is second place Rudd.
It's going to take some new tires for Ricky Rudd to get back in contention for the lead, or Darrell Waltrip to have a problem. Ricky Rudd has kind of faded over the performance we've seen earlier, but you gotta admit his tires are much older and much more well used than anybody else's on the racetrack.
Yeah, he's been doing a good job out there for as long as those tires have been on that race car, and it's down to the point now we're just past the 350 lap mark where if he makes one more pit stop, he can go the rest of the way from here. The black flag Kyle Petty again. He has come back in. There was a lot of smoke coming from the right front, so apparently he had a brake line broken or something wrong with the brakes over there. And there's a spin over in turn 3. It is Sterling Marlin, and Ken Bouchard spins in there as well in car number 10.
Both are sitting near the outside wall, out of the groove in turn number 3, but a yellow does come out on the racetrack, and this is the break that Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace have been waiting for.
And Ricky Rudd. Ricky Rudd needing a pit stop as well, but as you say, Rusty Wallace and Bill Elliott had gotten back in the lead lap, so now that'll put 4 cars in contention for the win.
Yeah, a break for Ricky Rudd when you think about it is in terms of getting new tires and getting back in the lead, but not really that good of a deal when you think that he's got 2 more contenders now in the lead lap that he's going to have to race later on in the race.
Sterling Marlin's car still on the racetrack, stalled, so the pace car comes out, and now we'll be seeing more pit stops made. There's Rudd, who's already in the pits, getting those fresh tires. Pitted right ahead of him is Mark Martin, and there is the leader of the race, Darrell Waltrip, coming in for a stop. Jerry Punch is there to call it for us.
Tide Chevrolet comes down pit road and will make a 4-tire change. Back again for Darrell Waltrip. Darrell Waltrip sitting, getting a nice cold drink, pulls the microphone away. And, of course, Ricky Rudd's car coming out of the back pits, already exiting in turn 3. Left side tires going on the Tide Chevrolet. Eddie Dickerson, Jeff Hammond, and Ricky Rudd will come by and take the lead while Waltrip gets his 4-tire change. He is down and away.
Well, there's a classic example of pitting on the backstretch. Ricky Rudd was running in second place, and now he comes out in front.
I timed the difference there. Ricky Rudd and Darrell Waltrip were running together when they came into the pits. Ricky pitted on the backstretch, Darrell on the front. Darrell pulled out of the pits 6 seconds later than after Ricky Rudd drove by the exit to the front straightaway pit road.
The 27 car of Wallace and the 9 car of Elliott both successfully complete their stops and move back out onto the racetrack. And so when the green comes out again, we're going to see some exciting action as the Goody's 500 continues live on ESPN. Drag racer Kenny Bernstein, the owner of the Quaker State Buick team that Ricky Rudd is driving, taking a few moments out to sign some autographs for his drag racing fans. He has seen his driver, Ricky Rudd, in very good shape throughout the afternoon, and now he is still up there in contention. Now let's summarize the pit stops for you that were just completed. And indeed, it was a very important round of stops. Darrell Waltrip lost a position. He was in first, came out second. Rudd exchanged positions with Darrell. Bill Elliott went in third and came out fourth, and Rusty Wallace went in fourth and came out third. But those 4 cars are indeed on the lead lap. Now, we go to the Ricky Rudd pit where Larry Newber is standing by with Chief Larry McReynolds.
Well, right now, Bob Riley and Larry McReynolds are on the headsets talking to Ricky. Each time they go by here, they stop as the engines roar by, and then they go back and talking to him. As soon as this sentence ends, we'll see if we can tune in and find out what the essence of the conversation is. They feel as though they're in a position now to win this race. They have felt they've had potentially the best car all afternoon long. They obviously were very disappointed when they let those leaders get by. Larry, what's the conversation right now? He's still talking to Ricky, as you can tell right now. What is the essence of what's going on between you and Ricky right now?
Well, it was kind of a close call a while ago. We didn't feel like we'd run enough laps to actually pit because the car hadn't fell off on the watch. But by Rusty and Bill having stickers on, they got their dadgum lap back. So it was a bad call on my part, because if we hadn't done that, it'd probably be us and Darrell racing for the lead, you know, only cars on the lead lap. But I think we can outrun Bill and Rusty, even though they're back on the lead lap.
But this yellow came at a good time, well inside that 140-lap window, so they definitely can go the distance on the tires.
We can go the distance now.
Okay, with the tires that are on the race car, of course, the fuel is obviously no question. They can run up to 170, 180 laps.
364 laps, and the green flag comes back out at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway. Here we go for hopefully the rest of the way without a caution, and some real exciting racing we anticipate coming up here.
Now, Greg Sachs in car number 88 got back in the lead lap there when he beat Rudd down into turn 1. Greg Sachs in the Red Bear Speed Oldsmobile running in 5th place. Of course, Darrell Waltrip running in 2nd place right behind the leader, Ricky Rudd. 3rd is Bill Elliott. No, Rusty Wallace now has moved into 3rd, and Bill Elliott has dropped back to 4th. Elliott beat, and trouble again up in turn 4. It's Michael Waltrip once again in car number 30.
Guess who? Michael Waltrip into the outside wall once again, and another caution flag over the speedway, and this is number 11. As Michael takes the shortcut now and cuts through the grass. Here comes the field racing back to the caution, and Greg Sachs indeed will pick up a very significant advantage there.
Yes, he got back into the lead lap, so he'll get to go all the way around. Here's a replay of what happened. You can see Michael Waltrip crossways as he comes off of turn 4, and he backs it gently up into the wall. And when the traffic goes by, he gets thrown back down comes back around to the pits.
Michael Waltrip's body man is going to be very busy this week getting ready for North Wilkesboro next week.
So the caution flag out again. This is number 11 on the afternoon. Remember, the record number of cautions here is 17. We'll be right back. Back at Martinsville, some real bumping and banging going on there as we are back to green, and Jeff Bodine and the 27 car of Rusty Wallace and the 25 car of Schrader racing very close together. Now the lead is being held right now by Ricky Rudd. There he is in the Quaker State Buick, the green car. 2nd position now, however, is Rusty Wallace.
Rusty has moved up through the pack, is really running strong right now. Alan Kowicki trying to get his lap back that he lost in the pit, so he's trying to move around Ricky Rudd just in case another caution comes out.
And a little bit of a friendly hand gesture there by Rusty Wallace, signaling Ken Schrader, saying, "Thank you, Ken, for moving over and allowing me to pass without any problem." So now it is Wallace in 2nd position and Darrell Waltrip in 3rd. It would appear as if, however, Ken Schrader would also be giving a sportsmanlike gesture here and allowing his teammate to pass on the inside, and that is exactly what is happening. So Waltrip now goes to the inside. Let's see what happens, though, when there is a bit of a competitor back there. That's Bill Elliott, and it's not going to be so easy for Bill.
Not quite as easy as it was for Darrell Waltrip. Elliott now running in the 4th position, Waltrip running 3rd, and running in 5th place behind them, only 2 car lengths behind Bill Elliott is the car number 88 of Greg Sachs, who has done a marvelous job here this afternoon. Has fought his way back from being a lap down and now running in 5th place in the lead lap.
Here in the closing laps of this race, we're going to be thinking about the driver of the race. And Kowicki is sideways as he smoked around a little heavy to turn number 3.
Yeah, he went in and had a nose up beside of Ricky Rudd going in there, and I think he might have hit the curb going in there, but he just went in there a little too hard and got her sideways, and he might have done some damage to his car.
And this is a battle for position between the number 7 car and the number 5, Kowicki and Bodine. Bodine saw just enough of an opportunity when Kowicki got sideways there, and here comes Jeff.
Well, it's time to go now. These two cars being a lap down have got to go. The car of Ricky Rudd, you know, he's been fighting all day to try and stay in the lead. Let a few cars get back in the lead lap. Now he's got to really show what he's got. Rusty Wallace is a long ways back when you think about it. He's got a lot of racetrack before he's going to catch Ricky Rudd. We'll be seeing what everybody's got here in the next few laps.
Here once again is a replay of Kowicki almost losing it in the 3rd turn.
Okay, here he's coming off of the 2nd turn, going down the back straight, and he tries to dip down on the inside, drives very hard in there, and he does hit that curbing on the inside, and it jumps the car back up there, and boy, he did a great job in saving that car. Right now, Ricky Rudd is turning the fastest laps of anyone that we have clocked all day long. He's running at about 21.70. Earlier, he's running about 22.25, so he picked up about a half a second. Of course, he has new tires on. As Gary said, you got to show what you got now. It's show and tell time.
As I started to say, as Kowicki was losing control, we're going to be considering the driver of the race here in the closing laps of this event. And when the driver of the race is awarded, Goodyear will pay $1,000 to the Winston Cup Auxiliary Wives Association, and it will be from a very good driver to a very good cause.
Well, there's a lot of candidates for that award today, Bob. It's going to be a tough choice.
That's the way it has been the last few races. You could probably give it to 5 or 6 drivers who have not necessarily won the race, but overcome adversity and really put on a good display of driving. And it's sure up for grabs in this one.
I'll tell you who's putting on a good display of driving right now is Jeff Bodine. He has run Ricky Rudd down. Ricky has moved out to about a second or so lead over him while Bodine was coming up through the field, but he's a lap down, but he's coming on, running in 6th place. He'll be trying to get his lap back here in just a few moments.
Yeah, he threatens to become the 6th car now on the lead lap. Not too many laps ago, we had 4 on the lead lap, and of course, Greg Sachs got his lap back to make number 5, and now Bodine is looking to do the same thing.
Yeah, when Alan Kowicki lost his lap in the pits and Sterling Marlin had his problem, momentarily we had 2 cars in the lead lap.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace got their lap back. Then Greg Sachs got his back, and now Jeff Bodine trying to get his back.
And Bodine is really working over Ricky Rudd.
Jeff Bodine's car normally runs black wheels. It looks like he's borrowed wheels from somebody who runs silver wheels. So they may have had to shuffle around in the pits and find some tires with a little better stagger on them. It looks like they had to go borrow them.
Let's see if he can get it back right here. He's side by side with Rudd. They come out of the 4th corner. Still a dead heat at the finish line. Into turn number 1, Bodine is going to slip by Ricky Rudd, and Jeff Bodine gets his lap back. We now have 6 cars on the lead lap, and right behind the leader, Ricky Rudd, is the number 7 car of Kowicki, and he too will be trying to get back onto the lead lap. We're at Martinsville, Virginia for the Goody's 500. Rudd, Wallace, Waltrip, Elliott, and Sachs, the first 5. Bodine, Kowicki, Schrader, Labonte, and Earnhardt 6 through 10, and 11 through 15, Ernie Irvin, Mark Martin, Brett Bodine, Dave Marcus, and Bobby Hillen Jr. Scenery is just gorgeous here in the Martinsville, Virginia area. And Martinsville Speedway, one of the most beautiful and well-maintained racing facilities in the United States. They're running 500 laps here this afternoon. And at the moment, it is Darrell Waltrip who is leading, rather Ricky Rudd who is leading this race in a Buick. It's been a long time since a Buick won.
There's racing going on all over the racetrack. Rusty Wallace just a moment ago was alongside of Darrell Waltrip, fighting it out. Ricky Rudd's got his hands full with Alan Kulwicki racing all around the racetrack.
And Bill Elliott has just been passed by Greg Sachs. Elliott has fallen back to the fifth position now. Greg Sachs has moved up into fourth. And Elliott is driving with one hand. We can see him as he comes off of turn 4 in our position. Now, I don't know if he's holding on to the roll bar. Now, whether there's some kind of a wire or anything there that he's holding on that he's having to do that, or if he's just resting or what it is, but he's definitely holding his right hand over on. We'll see if we can see him as he goes into the turn. You can see that his right hand is over there on that roll bar, down on the inside there, but every time for the last 15 or 20 laps he's come off of there and has been driving with one hand. Boy, that's tough on this track, Gary.
I wonder if he's holding the car in gear. Maybe he has his hand on the gear shift lever as if it were jumping out of gear and he has to hold it in the gear. Either that or maybe his shoulder or arm is just bothering him.
Now there you can clearly see that right hand is indeed off the steering wheel, resting on either the roll bar or the gear shift. And perhaps we can get a determination of exactly what the problem is from one of our pit reporters. But yeah, Bill Elliott has to be getting tired. That left arm has to be really tiring out, it would seem.
Boy, power steering is the only thing that's keeping him out there right now, I'm sure.
And while we were watching Bill Elliott, Alan Kulwicki moved around the car number 26 of Ricky Rudd and has gotten back in the lead lap. And here's how he did it. He makes that move again going into turn 3, it looks like, moves down on the inside, and the car sticks this time. He didn't hit the inside curbing like he did before, and is able to move around Ricky Rudd, pushing Rudd up into the car number 30 of Michael Waltrip. And so now we have, what, 7 cars in the lead lap.
And our pit reporters have checked on the Bill Elliott situation, and there apparently is nothing wrong. Bill just driving with one hand. Now here is the battle for the lead as Darrell Waltrip has caught Ricky Rudd. And Rudd, it seems to me like, is just not at full song.
No, he's been complaining about brake problems since about before the halfway point. Maybe that's it. Maybe he's realized that his brakes aren't going to get any better unless he takes it easy on them. That's the only hope he would have if he's had brake problems this long and still running this good. He's got to be at least thinking about not using the brakes as hard as he did in the early running.
So here is Waltrip closing in. That's Brad Teague in the 67 car, the Pendleton sweatshirt machine. On the outside, Waltrip chasing Rudd down the front stretch with 399 laps completed. One more lap and we'll have 100 laps to go, and that seems like a lot, but boy, it can click off very quickly on this racetrack.
Well, they're turning the track now at about 22 seconds, so they're not quite making 3 laps per minute, but it can go away in a hurry.
Oh, yeah, things happen so fast here at Martinsville, especially now that we're in the last 100 laps. This is the end of the race. This is where everybody reaches down and pulls out just that little bit extra, and that's what sometimes makes the equipment give up, makes for more problems, makes for even more banging on the racetrack. So it usually is the most interesting, this last 100 laps.
Let's run down the top 10 for you now with 100 laps to go. It's Rudd, Waltrip, Wallace, Greg Sachs, Bill Elliott, Jeff Bodine, Alan Kulwicki, those cars on the lead lap. In 8th is Ken Schrader. 9th is Terry Labonte, 1 lap down. And 10th, 2 laps down, is the number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt. Let's go to Larry Newber with a comment on the Ken Schrader run.
Bob, Ned, and Gary, I just leaned over to Larry McReynolds. I gave him a piece of paper, and I gave him some multiple choice questions. I said, brakes, tires, horsepower, stagger, question marks. He pointed immediately to stagger. Ricky Rudd said this set of tires is not quite as good as the last one he had. He's hoping that lap traffic will win this race for him because they're really concerned they can hold Darrell off with the set of tires they have on right now.
I said Ken Schrader. I meant Ricky Rudd. Schrader running in 8th. But Ricky Rudd, the leader of this race, but the car just not quite the way he wants it. And there is the 27 car of Rusty Wallace. Now he has moved through the traffic, and the first 3 now are going to be right together. Jerry Punch is down in the Rusty Wallace pit.
Oh, it's no doubt Rusty Wallace had the fastest car here and setting a new track record in qualifying, but when he cut that tire down and lost a lap, they were back in the pack and have been trying to make it up. Now, 300 laps later, they are back on the lead lap, and they would like to see a yellow flag come out. Let's talk to Barry Dodson, the crew chief. Barry, you guys would really like to see a yellow flag, be able to come in and make a chassis adjustment on the car.
Yeah, we need to, Jerry. We put some wedge in the car, and it helped us to a point. It got to a point
They think if the yellow flag would come out, they're going to be the team to beat. Maybe they will be. We'll see.
Well, he isn't doing too bad right now. He's catching Darrell Waltrip in second position, rather. As the interval is less than a straightaway. There is Wallace going into turn number 1 now. And there are the first and second place cars, Rudd and Darrell Waltrip.
It almost sounded from what Barry Dodson was saying was that they were adjusting and adjusting on the car, making it better and better, and now they went too far. So that's a good sign. If they get another chance in the pits, they can back up just a little bit on that adjustment, and Rusty Wallace is going to be a contender.
Yeah, I noticed him making that chassis adjustment during his last pit stop, and wondered then if it was going to help the car or hurt it, and apparently it isn't quite the way he wants it now.
But I'll tell you, if the caution comes out again, they have Jeff Bodine and Alan Kowicki to contend with, because both of those drivers, after they passed Rudd, have driven away from them. So they are the fastest cars on the racetrack right now.
Boy, things change so fast here at Martinsville. It's the short track, the slowest, like I said earlier, the slowest track we run on the circuit. But the way things happen here, it just, you know, the scorers have to be confused about half the time.
Ricky Rudd looking for his second win of the 1988 season. He, of course, won on the road course at Watkins Glen, New York earlier this year. ESPN Speed World on this Sunday afternoon at Martinsville Speedway in Virginia for the Goodies 500. Brought to you by Budweiser, proud sponsor of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you. By Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. And by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. Michael Waltrip has come in for another pit stop. They're changing tires on the right side. Looks like the right front is completely shredded away.
Yeah, I think he's probably, the brakes are probably overheating those right front tires and blowing. We see him here coming into turn 3, and he's on the rim. As you can see, the sparks flying already. He does a good job of getting it back to the pit.
Boy, Michael Waltrip, what a day. He deserves at least a headache powder after the day he's had here.
I'm sure Goody's, the sponsor of this race, would be glad to give him a few packets full of good exciting power to compensate for all the trouble he's been through this afternoon. The Nazareth 200 IndyCar race in Nazareth, Pennsylvania is over, and Danny Sullivan has won that with Michael Andretti finishing in second and Mario Andretti in third position. So that IndyCar points battle also is a good one, although Danny Sullivan with that win is looking pretty good for the kart championship. Here in this one, it's a battle between Ricky Rudd and Darrell Waltrip for the lead. Waltrip has been content for the last few laps to stay behind Ricky Rudd. He made a significant move to catch Ricky, but is just biding his time, it would appear, for the next few laps before he perhaps will take a run at it. There are 418 circuits completed. The number 52 car, Jimmy Means, smoke scene coming from it.
Yeah, he's got a problem on the right front of that car, Bob. For the last 8 or 10 laps, there's been smoke coming from it. We'll see him now as he comes off of turn 4, and you'll see the smoke come from that car as he comes off of that turn. And Jimmy was up in the top 10 for a long time earlier in the race, but now he's dropped way back after having some problems.
But what that is, Ned, is the brakes have gotten so hot on the right front of that car that it melted the O-ring that seals the brake fluid from leaking out into the brake caliper area. The O-ring is gone. He's got 0 brakes right now, I'm sure. His brake pedal's to the floor. The only thing he can hope for is to let off the gas to slow down. Every time he touches, Ricky Rudd's got a problem.
Oh, Rudd is smoking badly. Just as he came off the 4th corner, a big puff of smoke from that car, and Rudd may be finished for the afternoon. Here comes Waltrip to take the lead, and an unfortunate situation for Ricky Rudd.
Oh, boy, broken valve spring or broken valve of Ricky Rudd. He's on 7 cylinders now.
More or less.
7 and losing more, yes.
Yeah. Had a similar situation in Richmond, Virginia a couple of weeks ago when it looked like he had the race won and then blew an engine.
They tell us he's on 4 cylinders. Boy, that's tough.
Yeah, this is a very tough track for RPMs, and RPMs are what cause valve-related problems to happen to your engine.
So Rudd just simply drops down low on the racetrack and stays out of the racing groove and stays out of everybody's way after fighting so hard to maintain the lead and to get to where he was this afternoon. Just has to now fight out the rest of the race. Here's a replay. You can see the smoke coming from the race car just as he came off the 4th corner.
Yep, you can see that smoke start coming from it. We understand they've just been told to park it, and he's dropped out of 8 races with engine failure before today's race, so this would make 9.
Those problems usually don't get better.
And Rudd was 11th in points coming in, so it doesn't mean a whole lot. And there is a very dejected Kenny Bernstein, who, of course, has suffered many defeats on the racetrack himself and has suffered a defeat as a car owner here this afternoon.
Ricky Rudd has just pulled in. You can see an awful lot of long faces. Larry McReynolds reaches across. I asked a couple of crew guys if they knew exactly what the problem was. Shook their heads, gave the brake sign. They said engine. They have no idea specifically what it is. Gary's guess is probably about as good as anybody's right now. It definitely felt terminal for Ricky in the car, and they really were anticipating the black flag. But other than engine problems, at least at this moment, maybe we can get a couple of details in a couple of minutes here. That's all you can tell about the problem. Engine failure.
So Ricky Rudd will not win the Goody's 500, although he put on a very brilliant driving display in the first 425 laps of this race. We'll try to get to him. Look at Darrell Waltrip, who's caught in some traffic. Ernie Irvan taking him way high on the racetrack. And Waltrip had some real maneuvering to do to get out of that tight situation.
Yeah, he went into turn 3. Ernie Irvan was trying to move around Kyle Petty and made it 3 abreast there, and that closed the gap. Rusty Wallace was able to move up on Waltrip. He was running about 3 seconds behind him.
And let's go back and look at it once again. A lap ago, here's what happened.
Okay, he goes in. You see Ernie Irvan goes on the outside of Kyle Petty, but Kyle stays down in there, gets Ernie a little bit loose crossways as Waltrip is up on the outside, and he knows that's not the place to be. He just gets out of the gas and says, wait a minute, let me get this thing straightened out.
And here comes Rusty Wallace then to close in, and that is how close Rusty is right now to being in the lead of this race. Waltrip maintaining about a 1.5 or 2 car length advantage on Rusty Wallace. Larry Newbers with Ricky Rudd.
That was a tough fight to lose.
I tell you, this race, Richmond a couple of weeks ago, both of them were out front when it happened late in the race. It's discouraging, but what can you do? We got a race next week. Quaker State Duke's been running out front about everywhere we've been. We just got to get motors to stay together. You can't win when you're sitting in the pit.
Could you determine from the cockpit exactly what happened to the engine?
Well, it broke a valve, evidently. We've been so worried about this motor that most of these guys pulled a much lower gear than we did. That's one reason it doesn't make sense why we'd break a valve. That's usually RPM related. We didn't turn but about 8,000, 8,100 all day. These other guys turned about 8,600 all day. So I don't really know why it's breaking, but we got to get it straightened out.
One thing for sure, for 4/5 of the races the last month, this has been the most outstanding competitor.
Ricky will have a chance to do it all again next week at North Wilkesboro, and we'll be there. The top 15 now with 430 laps completed, 70 to go. It's Waltrip, Wallace, Sachs, Elliott, and Bodine. Second 5, Kowicki, Schrader, Labonte, Earnhardt, and Irvin. The third 5, Martin, Bodine, Marcus, Hillin Jr., and Brad T. Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Gary Nelson, Jerry Punch, and Larry Newber back at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway. We're in the closing stages of the Goody's 500 with Darrell Waltrip in the Tide Machine, number 17, leading this race. Second place belongs to Rusty Wallace. It's been a brilliant drive for Rusty Wallace this afternoon, and that's how far he is behind the 17 car. He's separated by Rick Wilson, but Rusty is certainly within striking distance there in the 27 machine. Now behind the 27 car is the 88 car of Greg Sachs. He is running in third spot and having a good afternoon. If he finishes in third spot, it would be his best finish since he won the Firecracker 400 a couple of years back.
Now, just before we went away to the break, Bob, we saw when Darrell Waltrip got in that little trouble up in turn 4, lapping some cars that Rusty Wallace closed in on him and was only about a car length behind him. But now Waltrip has been able to pull away from Rusty Wallace, and if anything, Greg Sachs is hanging on Rusty Wallace. You see Sachs back there in the picture. So Wallace is either a little off the pace right now, or Greg Sachs has picked up, but Darrell Waltrip definitely had no problem pulling away.
And of course, Greg Sachs is the driver that Buddy Baker has tapped to run this car full-time in the 1989 season. Waltrip trying to put another lap on Dale Earnhardt. It's been a very long and trying afternoon for Dale.
I think that would put Dale 4 laps down, according to our calculations here, but so far Darrell hasn't been able to do it. Now when he hits the straightaway, Earnhardt's car not running quite as strong on the straightaway. Right here is where they tangled last year on the very last lap of this race. But Earnhardt giving Waltrip room to run out there, but he's making him work for it.
Earnhardt's car is showing a couple black eyes, Ned. Both front headlights look like they've been knocked out of it or pushed back. That's got to affect his brake ducts, on top of all the other problems he's had with the engine missing early in the race.
Boy, Dale is hanging right in there and trying to keep Darrell back side by side again.
But now Phil Parsons pulling out in front of Earnhardt there, and that'll give Waltrip maybe the room that he needed. Let's see if it will.
I don't know.
Still didn't quite work for it. Now, you know, as far as the officials are concerned, Earnhardt has moved to the inside of the racetrack. He's giving Darrell room to run out there. You just simply can't run as fast out there as you can out on the inside group.
And through all of this, Rusty does not seem to be moving up at all. As a matter of fact, he's still about as far behind Waltrip as he was before this little race between Waltrip and Earnhardt began. Let's go back to 1987. This race a year ago, it was Waltrip, Labonte, and Dale Earnhardt.
Well, as they went into turn 3, as Greg Sachs comes into the pits, Labonte bumps Earnhardt a little bit. Waltrip bumps Labonte a little bit. It makes Labonte spin around. Earnhardt goes high. Waltrip slips down underneath him, comes off turn 4, and takes the checkered flag. And
that's how Darrell Waltrip won in '87. This year, he is leading late in the race in 1988. The 5 and 7 cars are battling for position, and they have been for the last few laps. And Jeff Bodine and Alan Kowicki both are closing in on Bill Elliott.
Well, when Greg Sachs came into the pits there a moment ago, apparently he has no brakes on that car because he went on back out and they're waiting for him to come back in. But that moved Bodine up into 4th position and Alan Kowicki into 5th. But now Kowicki trying to move into 4th.
Well, Jeff and Alan Kowicki have really taken off. When you think about it, just a few laps ago, Ricky Rudd was the leader, and Jeff and Alan Kowicki passed Ricky Rudd to get their laps back. Now, and that gave Darrell Waltrip the lead. Now, these guys are over a half a lap ahead of Darrell Waltrip, racing for position right here, but back in the lead lap.
And not too far behind Bill Elliott, who is running in 3rd place, and they had to pass Bill Elliott to get back in the lead lap, so they've gone all the way around the racetrack. They're only about 2.5 to 3 seconds behind him as they battle side by side for the 4th position.
Here are two drivers that certainly are in contention for driver of the race that we'll announce a little bit later in our broadcast. Now Kowicki has successfully passed Jeff Bodine. Now Greg Sachs, as we mentioned, came in for a pit stop. Let's check with Larry Nuber on that.
Yeah, Bob, I think I heard Ned speculate that it was a brake problem. He was exactly right. I talked with Buddy Baker, and they were very enthusiastic about 10 laps ago. I just came over on this side of the fence, or this side of the infield, the front stretch. He said, yep, you're absolutely right. The brakes are almost gone. There's enough there that we can race, but we can't race hard.
Well, he's not going to race much longer yet, Larry. He's coming into the pits once again. We'll see if he can get stopped. Some other teams are going to come out there and help to stop the car. He has absolutely no brakes. You see, one other team helped him, and he still couldn't get the car stopped and had to go on back out.
He's going to have to try it again, and this time slow down a little bit more. So Greg Sachs has fallen victim to the problem that we've been talking about since the drop of the green flag, and that is brakes at Martinsville.
Well, I tell you talk about brakes. Just not many laps ago, he was running in 3rd place. Now he's at least 2 or 3 laps down and just completely out of contention.
Well, he's really faced now. He's lost so much time trying to stop in the pits. There's really nothing the crew can do to help your brakes. When the brake fluid is boiling, there's nothing you can do until it cools off and stops boiling. He tried to make a stop, and he just couldn't do it. The only way to stop it is to turn off the engine, let out the clutch, and let the engine stop you. It looked to me like he had the car in neutral.
And I'm not sure I would want to run a single lap at Martinsville without any brakes. Here he comes in once again to try to get stopped. Let's see if it's more successful this time, Larry.
Well, he was a little better prepared as he rolled into the pits, trying to get the car stopped. All the crews over there get it stopped. And by the way, I've just been awarded the TRW announcement for their mechanic of the race. It has gone to Joey Knuckles, the crew chief on the car number 88. Of course, this is a race car sponsored by Red Baron, but the TRW $1,000 award goes to Joey Knuckles and crew. They've done an excellent job. Of course, Greg had a third place until this brake problem, Bob.
So Greg Sachs' afternoon as far as a contender for the win is over. Let's review for you the top 10 now as we take another break, and we'll be right back for more of the Goodies 500. Coming up next here on ESPN from Charlotte, North Carolina, final round live coverage of the Payne Weber Invitational, the Senior PGA Tour. Stay with us right after the conclusion of this race for the Payne Weber Invitational. The concession stands are still quite busy here at Martinsville, despite the fact we're only a few laps. Yes, save me one, would you? Thank you. There's the leader, Darrell Waltrip, number 17. Rusty Wallace is remaining in second, but I'll tell you, Dale Earnhardt and Preston Darrell are still running right together out there on the racetrack. Now, Wallace is in second position.
But he's speeding, Bob. He's not running as fast as he was earlier. In fact, right now, Darrell Waltrip is about a half a lap behind him.
And Jerry Punch has this story from the pit area.
Well, suddenly the Tide crew began to come to life here, and they're getting ready. They have been radioed by Darrell Waltrip that he may have a right front tire going down. They have rolled some tires up here to the wall, and they are getting ready for pit stops here in the Tide pit. Hopefully they can get a caution flag. Maybe it won't, but they may have to bring him in quickly to change that right front tire.
While that was going on, Alan Kowicki has come all the way around the racetrack and has passed Bill Elliott, now has passed Rusty Wallace, and has moved into second place. He is literally flying around this racetrack.
Boy, this last 100 laps, like I was saying earlier, this is the killer. If it had been a 400-lap race, Ricky Rudd would have been the winner. Now we're, 36 laps from the finish. Here's the new leader, Darrell Waltrip, starting to have problems.
Well, Rusty Wallace's car is definitely off the pace from what he was running earlier. Don't know what the problem might be, but he is definitely off the pace. He's still running in third position.
He had started to slow down a little bit, then he had a little bit of an encounter with Richard Petty over the second corner a lap or two ago that may have even further slowed him down.
He might have lost a cylinder. He's dropped to the inside of the racetrack, and some cars that are laps down, like Rick Wilson and Kenny Schrader, are passing him by.
Really decision time if a caution comes out now. What do you do? If you're Darrell Waltrip, do you stay on the racetrack? I think Darrell would be coming in if a caution came out. But then what about Alan Kowicki? In second place now, the 27 car with problems. In third place, the 5 car now trying to take over third place from Alan Kowicki. So,
from Rusty Wallace.
From Rusty Wallace.
And Wallace comes into the pits.
Rusty coming into the pits.
He evidently had a tire going down or something. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Rusty Wallace comes in for an unscheduled pit stop. The right side tire is going on the car. Rusty had been getting slower and slower as the car was slipping and sliding going off the corner. And apparently Rusty had a right side tire, possibly right rear tire going down. 9-second pit stop. I'll be quick for those guys.
Super pit stop, Jerry, but he did go a lap down because he was about a half a lap behind Darrell Waltrip. And while he was in the pits, Waltrip went by him, so that did put him a lap down. And here is the leader, Darrell Waltrip.
And the question is, will Darrell have to make a stop for tires in the next few laps? At the moment, he continues to lead, but his advantage on second place.
A little less than half a lap. We got the clock on him right now as Waltrip comes off turn 4. Alan Kowicki going into turn 3. He's 9 3/10 seconds behind. Alan Kowicki is behind Darrell Waltrip right now.
And here comes Kowicki just out of corner number 4 now. There is Allen right there.
If you use Dale Earnhardt for a judge about how Darrell Waltrip's running, he's kind of pulled away again from Earnhardt. You know, they were talking about maybe a tire going down, and Earnhardt was right back on Darrell's bumper. Then Darrell pulled away a little bit again from Dale Earnhardt. So maybe Darrell was just feeling something funny in the car.
It looked like that Darrell really was slow coming off that corner.
Yeah, and he might have used up his brakes quite a bit when he was trying to lap Earnhardt back there. He was really having to work and harder than he wanted to, but once he got around him, now he's able to pull away a little bit, and maybe that brakes have built up for him.
Checking the interval here between first and second. Here comes Kowicki right now, and it is 8.7.
Yeah,
so
he's gaining.
Yeah, slightly less than it was a lap or so ago.
Well, there's no question of what he's been gaining, because he had Darrell Waltrip as one of the drivers he had to pass to get back in the lead lap when Ricky Rudd was actually leading the race at that time. But he had to go around Waltrip as well, and so he's gone all the way around the racetrack and come back to within a little over 8 seconds.
There's really no doubt that Alan Kowicki's got the fastest car on the racetrack right now. You know, he's pulling away from Jeff Bodine, who's in 3rd place, pulling away from everybody. He's on laps himself and gaining on Darrell Waltrip for the lead now. So Alan Kowicki, if not for those loose lug nuts earlier that cost him a lap, he would really be looking good.
Let's check it again. 8.1. It was 8.4 a lap ago. Now it's 8.1. He's definitely gaining.
Well, 27 laps to go. He's going to have to really step it up.
Bill Elliott crossways coming off at turn 4. He just got lapped the last time around. You can see him just in the top of the screen there getting it straightened out. He got lapped by Darrell Waltrip. Elliott is still running in the 4th position, but he hasn't been a factor since the green flag came out this last time. He's been driving with one hand, and now that those tires are really heated up, that's a tough situation. It's tough here driving with both hands.
So last week when we saw the first 3 in points finish 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, that's certainly not the way it's going to be here at Martinsville, because the first 3 in points have all had some problems during the day. Elliott, Earnhardt, and Rusty Wallace, and there is Rusty and Bill Elliott running together 1st and 3rd in the Winston Cup points battle.
Now that is for position. I believe that should put Rusty Wallace in the 4th position as he moved around Bill Elliott.
All right, Jerry Punch, can you update us on the Darrell Waltrip situation?
Well, Darrell had called in a few laps ago that there may be a right front tire going down, as we explained. He said the car was not handling properly. It was getting to float up across the racetrack in the corners and was very, very difficult to steer. Well, apparently that problem has resolved somewhat, and they are still sitting here holding their breath with fresh tires against the pit wall. But Darrell says the car is hanging on, so they're going to try to make their way to the finish.
Well, they've got only just a few more laps to go. It's lap 477, and Bill Elliott is in the pits.
And it's for a change of right side tires. This would have to be, I think, an unscheduled pit stop. He should have been able to go the rest of the distance, but he really has been slipping and sliding on the racetrack. They figured the best thing you can do is get some fresh tires on that car before he spins her out.
So we have seen both Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace pit for tires here in the last few laps. Will Darrell Waltrip have to? We'll answer the question in just a moment. We're 16 laps away from the finish of the Goodies 500. Coming up next here on ESPN, the Payne Weber Invitational Seniors Golf Tournament, live from Charlotte, North Carolina. There goes Rusty Wallace getting his lap back that he lost while he made that pit stop. So Rusty now goes back on the lead lap. Rusty is in 4th spot. In 2nd position is Alan Kowicki. There he is. And the interval, what, Ned? About the same as it was, or is he losing ground?
No, he for a few laps got in some traffic there, and he lost a little bit. About 6 seconds is still the...
And we have awarded the driver of the race to Alan Kowicki. So $1,000 will be awarded from Goodyear to the Winston Cup Wives Association in Alan Kowicki's name. We chose him because of all the adversity that he has had to overcome today.
I'll tell you, he has really driven a whale of a race. He got a lap down in the pits when they made a miscue in there with the lugs and fought his way back and is really bearing down on Darrell Waltrip for the win here after being a lap down. He has just flat outdriven everyone and outrun everyone here for the last 100 laps or so.
Yeah, I really think Alan Kowicki has driven one heck of a race. You know, the determination he must have to come back from the problems he's had. Now he's within 4 seconds of the leader with 12 laps left in the race. So he still could be a contender to win after all of the problems he's had.
Well, Darrell Waltrip is in awful heavy traffic here, and we saw him trying to lap Dale Earnhardt earlier on the outside, and he just can't go on the outside. The car's just not working out there. When he keeps it down on the inside, he has no problems whatsoever. But he's in some very, very heavy traffic. Kulwicki is able to go inside, outside, wherever he wants to go. So he is really picking up on him right now. Darrell Waltrip in trouble with the traffic there.
But there are only 11 more laps to go. 489 have been completed. Waltrip, it looked like a little sideways coming off the second quarter. He has a lot of race traffic ahead of him. That's Greg Sachs, Mark Martin, Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott, and Dave Marcus all ahead of him. Now the 88 car of Sachs drops off the pace and goes to the inside of the racetrack. Remember, he doesn't have any brakes. Waltrip is having a terrible time moving through this lap traffic.
Darrell's car is not handling like he wants it. He's got the lead. He knows there's not many laps left. He wants to protect his lead. Alan Kulwicki, by the way, can see Darrell now. Alan Kulwicki on the same straightaway. There's Alan coming into view. So Alan can see Darrell, but 9 laps to go, it's going to be tough.
Larry Newber has this comment on the Alan Kulwicki run this afternoon.
Well, Bob, I talked to Paul Andrews, his crew chief, and I held up another one of those notes and said, got a chance? He pushed his lips together and shook his head, and he leaned over and said, you know, it really hurts because we're at least a quarter of a second faster than everybody else in the racetrack, but we just don't have enough laps. If Alan Kulwicki finishes second today, it will be the 3rd time this year. Clearly, among the non-winners in his career, in terms of Winston Cup racing, this is his most shining star.
Alan Kulwicki has never won a Winston Cup race. He has come so close twice, finishing in second position. He was second at Darlington earlier this year, and it appears as if he may have to settle for that runner-up position also today. But the race still isn't over yet. We've got a little less than 7 laps to go.
Now, some of that traffic is sort of weeded out in front of Darrell Waltrip, even though Dale Earnhardt is trying to move around him right now, but he got around Terry Labonte. Labonte didn't give him too much of a fight. You can see Earnhardt in the black car there behind Darrell Waltrip trying to move up on the outside of him. I think Waltrip is just trying to conserve what he has right now, just hoping that it's good enough for the end, that Alan Kulwicki just doesn't have enough time to catch him.
You know, Earnhardt's been our gauge as far as how strong Darrell Waltrip's been the last 20 or 30 laps or so. Darrell pulls away a little from Earnhardt. Now Earnhardt's getting ready to go back around Darrell. So Darrell definitely has problems. But his crew's telling him how far, how much of a lead he has. He must think that he can make it right now.
5 laps to go, less than 5, 4.5 to go. Waltrip in the 3rd turn.
Alan Kulwicki now has closed it to 2 3/10 seconds, but I'll tell you, that's a long way when you consider there are only 4 laps to go as Waltrip goes across the start-finish line.
Darrell sure seems to have a problem, though. I don't know. He's cutting it awful close. Alan Kulwicki's going to be on his bumper in no time.
Darrell Waltrip looking for his 73rd career win. His 2nd of the year.
He might have a tire blistering or something. I don't know.
Well, watching for rubber. There's a piece of rubber that came flying either from the car or from the track, whichever. But in any case, Darrell Waltrip.
I think it's from the racetrack as rubber builds up in the corners here on this racetrack.
This completes
2 more laps to go.
Yeah, this completes lap number 498. Here comes Waltrip crossing the line. There are 2 more laps to go, and now Alan Kulwicki is really closing in. He has only 1 car between himself and the leader, Darrell Waltrip. That is... Oh, and he gets high coming out of turn number 2. Kulwicki slipped and may have cost himself a shot at the win right there, although I still don't think he would have been able to catch Darrell.
He's got a problem.
He's definitely got a problem. He's way high in turns 3 and 4, so maybe he's out of brakes. Waltrip, meanwhile, has taken the white flag, and he has less than a half mile now to go for his 2nd win of the 1988 season. The defending champion of this race is about to successfully defend his championship. He won at Charlotte earlier this year in the World 600, and now here he comes off the 4th corner. The hand is in the air. Darrell Waltrip wins the Goodies 500. Here comes Alan Kulwicki off the 4th corner, and Alan finishes 2nd, but he is limping across the line. And there's the happy Tide crew.
He drove drove a very smart race, Bob. He ran a good, solid, smart race here today. Did what he had to do. Stayed out of trouble all day. He got in some close quarters at times, backed off, kept clean, kept good brakes on the car and everything.
This reminds me of the Darrell Waltrip of old. I remember doing so many races back in the mid-'80s and '84 and so forth when you would watch Darrell Waltrip just bide his time, just stay within striking distance, but never really show his cards until he had to. And that's exactly the kind of race that Darrell Waltrip ran here this afternoon. By golly, he comes out with his second victory of 1988. The top 10 finishers as we see them now. We'll be back to talk with Darrell Waltrip in just a moment.
All over you. My man.
We are back at Martinsville Speedway in Martinsville, Virginia. The Goody 500 is history. We're in Victory Lane. This Victory Lane interview is brought to you by Goodyear. And riding the victory on Goodyear tires is Darrell Waltrip. Darrell, congratulations on a tremendous run today, partner.
Praise the Lord. Thank God for just a great day. This car is fantastic. I had a link missing in my chain, and I found it today. And we're going to be a hard dog to keep on the porch from now on.
Everyone said that's the DW of old, back to the rear steer car and up front.
You got it, buddy. All day long. I mean, they dropped the green flag. I told Jeff and them after, had a little caution there. I said, we're racing today, boys. And we were. Hi, Mom and Dad. And I want to thank Goodyear. By golly, Goodyear, you come through today, and I appreciate it.
Darrell Waltrip wins it here in the Goodies 500.
Thank you, Jerry. Unofficially, Bill Elliott maintains his lead in Winston Cup points. Rusty Wallace moves into second.